will turn my camera on normally after I'm done ugly eating my food.
Okay. All right, here we go. Oh boy. Instead, she'll have this on the screen for you all to enjoy. Thank you for that.
Love you, Samantha.
What did Prime turn the camera off?
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm right here. Okay. So we've got a nice group of individuals here. I'm happy to have you all here. All right. And we have a topic, and I'm glad I have our first guest here. His name is B-More. He's a great mod. B-More is a fantastic mod in this community. We have a bit of disagreement on this specific topic, but it is what it is.
I'm actually not here. Look, Prime, look, I'm not even here to talk. I'm just here to listen to all these lefties and Democrats to convince me that we should expand police power. Let's sell it to them.
We notoriously do love police. So,
you know, all cops, ACAB, all cops are beautiful. You know, red flag me, baby. I want it.
Someone's like, hey, Maddie, do you want some policing? I'm like, oh, fucking yes, finally.
Bring the handcuffs, baby. The guns are over there. Take those first, then come back. I'll be here.
I like your shirt, by the way, with the...
Who said anything about police taking the guns away?
I love that.
No, look, the way we conduct red flag laws at this current moment is exactly that. We're sending people with guns to go get guns. Now, this is the reason why I said I'm interested in hearing some proposals, because I don't like the way we do things currently. We've had people die from red flags in Maryland and other places. I do believe there is a place to deal with like domestic abuse or people who are abusers. But really, like the trample on gun rights, but my rights. Oh, he brought it up. I'm gonna bring it up nice and early. I'm not gonna let it be. I'm gonna let it be known right now. It's like, yeah, cops suck. I don't want to be I don't want them to be the only population armed. This whole the people can't rise against the government is absolute bullshit. There's so many more factors to consider. At the end of the day, nobody would win. Like that's nobody. It's a net loss for the government, for the people. So it's like you kill everybody and no one to rule over. Like it just doesn't work like that. But we'll see.
So Fines, we'll go to you first. But I just wanted to introduce everyone. So there was B-More, right? And like he said, he was going to be quiet and just listen. All right. Anyway, promises. So we have.
I'm snitching.
I love B-More. He's a great guy. I just love hanging out with him. He's honestly just an amazing person. Thank you, B-More, for being in this community. Thank you, Amanda, for coming back. Amanda and B-More, amazing mods here. Then we have Fines. We have Sprouticus, our current stream queen, right? Look at him. Isn't he so lovely?
I'm proud of you. That's so exciting.
Yeah. The first conservative stream queen. He's amazing. Yeah. So I'm happy you're here, buddy. I'm curious what you're going to be adding here. This way. There's also Jack. She's just I say all the good things about Jack because I love Jack so much. She's an amazing human being, and she's so kind and so great.
Yeah. Feel free to keep listing the good and wonderful qualities I have.
I'll get a dictionary. And we have Maddie, ray of I'm just gonna call you Ray of Sunshine, or maybe something else like a sun flare or something.
Burst of lightning.
Yeah, we're gonna
your energy.
The queerest of rainbows.
Power.
The queerest of rainbows. Yes.
What are the little buds of lightning
Colliding
bugs
protons.
But yeah, it's also clear that I like Maddie a lot too. So thank you for coming back and spending a little bit more time with us.
The more I find out all the nerdy things that you like, and then I realize that I like the same things, I'm just like, are me and Prime best friends now?
I think we are. Let's make that happen, please. I would love to also have a private talk with you, Maddie. Get to know you a bit better. You sound like a lot, of fun.
I'm gonna reject that.
Okay. Next, Nine-Tailed Cosmic Fox back with us once again, spreading love. But glasses are off because I don't know. I guess she's off a cool Nine-Tails mode. She's regular Nine-Tails now, which is great too.
No love left for these pro-gun people, and you all should know I'm the real pro-gun person here. All the other ones are fronting. So direct your self-fulfilling arguments to me. I love circular logic.
Thank you. We have Samantha Banana, and we got to give a special shout out to Samantha Banana. Samantha Banana helps us as one of our producers, one of our incredible producers, and she put together Lily. I said this before, between the open and the walk. The closed and the open panel, but that she helped us put this all together through sheer force of will, right? And if you know Samantha, you know she's got a lot of will to spare. But she did all that, and
I'll be sparing some tonight. Don't worry.
If it wasn't for her, then we wouldn't have had this amazing panel, because she's just really good at what she does. Thank you, Samantha, for all the hard work you did to make that happen. It was a really good panel. But you made that a reality.
Oh, if you think this panel is great, Prime, remember what we have in store for people coming up. Oh my God, it's going to blow people's minds. It's going to be something nobody has ever seen before on Twitch. It's going to be so diverse. We're going to touch a lot of issues. It's going to be fucking wonderful.
It's going to be a diverse, has all white people.
Why?
Hey, some of us are Western European. Some of us are Northern European.
Very
All right,
diverse.
listen, I don't care. Spicy white is still white. Shut the fuck up.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, and we'll do
Some of us
that.
have freckles.
We'll do the thing. Okay. Moving on. We have Pyro Tyrant coming in. Pyro Tyrant, another one of our brand new mods. Thank you, Pyro Tyrant, for helping us out and joining us here, buddy. How you doing?
Wearing the wrong shirt.
Yeah. You're looking good. I think he's looking pretty good in that. But thank you, Pyro Tyrant. All right. Thank you, Unicat Jess, for coming through once again. Nice to see you. Thank you, Wordy, who I always like, even though he, last time he disappeared on us, and we felt really sad, we bullied you away.
Wait, no, I had to go to sleep. I had work.
It didn't sound like that, but anyway.
No, I was just a dumbass. I needed to go to sleep. It's fine.
All right, well, we're glad you're back, though. We really do appreciate you. Thank you, Zin, as well. Zin, one of our original supporters and a continuous supporter. Thank you for being around, Zin. Okay, so let's jump into it, right? We'll start with fines. B-More was getting us started on the gun debate with talking about the police powers and then talking about the red flag laws. So just to remind everyone. All right, fines. Go ahead.
Yeah. So with the gun debate, I just want to begin this debate or this panel discussion with some evidence. So in the VC chat, and in the Twitch chat, I actually posted a study that was posted in a peer-reviewed journal that found its main conclusions were that there are high associations between social mobility and homicides. What this means is essentially in places in the country where you have higher social mobility, you actually have less gun homicides. And in places with low social mobility, you have higher gun homicides. So what this essentially means, and we can walk through the study if you really want to, but it's there's a lot to walk through, but what it essentially means is that we should be focusing on the root causes of crime and homicides rather than these blanket symptom level policies that don't really address anything. So yeah, I just wanted to begin with some basic evidence.
Okay, yeah.
What, do you think this is a fucking college campus? Bitch, this is Twitch politics. Just yell at me or some shit.
Get your facts out of here, okay?
I have absolutely zero. I have absolutely zero fucking peer-reviewed evidence. But I'm just saying, banning guns is some bullshit lib wanna be fucking band-aid rather than addressing fucking mental health issues, police reform, and everything. Is just quicker to fucking ban guns because ooh, scary guns bad. Get go big bang 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 loud noise.
Shut the fuck up. It's very easy.
No, shut the fuck up. I'm not talking to you. You're a fucking leaf cuck, you goddamn Canadian. I don't want your opinion on American guns. Shut the fuck up.
Samantha, I love your passion.
I'm actually not biased, so you're just afraid of me.
You are Canadians. I am the least afraid of you. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm not going to use the I'm entitled to my medal argument.
Jesus Christ. Hold on. But here's the thing. It is totally a band-aid. Rather than liberals just wanting to fucking fork out the money, fix the mental health care, fix fucking health care, rather than the fucking Republicans. It's shit. Republicans, you want to keep guns? You want to know a fucking great bargaining tactic? Hey, we will give you socialized health care if you don't fuck with our guns. Bam. 2 people happy, shut the fuck up. Lots of things got done at once. Now, that solves mental health care and fucking health care. Now, yeah. 2 birds,
if
1
Republicans
bullet.
are going to use it as a bartering chip, then we should get rid of them.
What?
Fuck, liberals use it as a bargaining. Shut the fuck up.
Everyone uses it
It's
as
just
a
debasing politics.
Yeah.
What are liberals gonna do? Make another
Wait,
fucking crime
time
bill
out.
and fucking imprison a bunch more black people? Shut the
What
fuck
do
up
you
with this
mean it's
shit.
debasing politics? Like,
So,
I mean,
Exactly what they'll do.
I thought
I do-
America was great and had like some sort of democratic political system. What you're suggesting is not democratic.
No.
Secondly,
we do not live in a
secondly,
democracy, my friend.
where are these leftists who
Still a
don't want to
misconception.
deal with both things? Where are these leftists who don't want to deal with both things? You're making
we
up
live
a
in
straw
a
man.
plutocracy. We live
Wait.
in a plutocracy. First off, second
Fantastic.
off,
I want Sam to
banning-
address the
banning
point that
guns
she's making a
achieves
straw
nothing.
man.
Oh, fine. They'd rather address this quick and now and just be like, oh, ban guns because guns kill people. And it's like, they'd talk about suicide rates and all this stuff. It's like, cool, suicide rates. That's a mental health fucking problem. But rather than attack the fucking issues instead of the fucking end, result, they're thinking that this will be the Band-Aid and just cause a lot more problems down the run. Plus, I believe personally, because I don't give a fuck about evidence, data, statistics, that every liberal that fucking advocates for taking guns should be the motherfucker that shows up to my house to come and try to take them. Like, that's just fucking fact.
So let's
Please.
Samantha,
So,
This is me wishing a
The reason
motherfucker
leftists
would.
want to prioritize taking away guns is because it absolutely reduces gun crime and stuff like that. Whereas
Oh, yeah.
making it some,
Switzerland.
whereas when we address all those other things, we don't have a direct
Switzerland
one-to-one
and
change in
Canada
gun
both have
violence.
guns.
Oh boy,
Thank you.
we already addressed
Cool,
this
they
point.
have
Has
guns.
really
They
the
also have
idea.
the bullshit U.S. gun culture, which is why
I
I'm better
love
at
the
talking about
idea.
it.
So now it
Sure.
changes from guns to gun culture. So why don't you
Nine
fucking
tails,
pick
the
a thing to
reason-
fucking
Okay,
hate
okay.
and then stay
Is
consistent?
it really that hard for you that it's fucking both?
Okay, no, boy,
Nine-tails,
oh boy. Let's
The
let some
reason
other.
crime.
Let's let some other people in. Don't worry, we'll get back to you. We have all night. So let Maddie in because I know she can't spend the whole night with us, unfortunately. But Maddie, I want to hear what you have to say. Then let's go to Beemore, who had his hand up. Then Fines. Anyone? Sorry, we have Jack, and then Pyro.
Yeah, no, and you underestimate me. I'm very sleep deprived right now, but I might just keep on going. So we'll see how long.
I shouldn't
Don't
do
kill
that.
yourself.
I will try.
For the content, maybe you should. I don't know. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
listen. Oh my gosh, do it for the gram. Do it for the views. Okay, but yeah, I kind of agree that I think the proposition of removing all of the guns from this country is not like grounded in reality. I just like don't see. I would love for that to happen. However, I just don't think it's like a realistic aspiration. So it'd be a waste of time to like seriously pursue that avenue. So it's like what I look for is, okay, if the bad part about guns is that people die in mass shootings or they die at the hands of like violent criminals or domestic violence, whatever, let's look at the root causes of each of these things and then make a determination on like, well, how do we prevent that harm being done? Right? And a lot of that can be solved in ways that don't like directly affect gun laws. In a lot of cases, things like violent robbery and crime is directly correlated with economic opportunity in those like localized area. That's one thing. Another thing would be, I think we touched a little bit about it on the panel, but for domestic violence victims, like the resources that we make available to victims of domestic violence is, I mean, lacking to say the least. If we were simply able to provide a stronger social safety net so that people don't have to choose between like financial ruin and being out on their own entirely and, without any of the like housing, healthcare, whatever, if they leave their abuser, what if we made it so that it wasn't something they had to choose between staying with someone who might kill them or having to forego all those things and take that risk? So I think there are a lot of like concrete policy options that address a lot of the issues and ultimately have an outcome of harm reduction and reduced gun violence, but let all the people have their pew pew boom booms.
Thank you. Let's go to Amanda. I see your hand up. I'll add you to the
Also,
list.
I just want to be a cyborg.
Sure. All right. Let's go to Beemore so you can respond to all that. Fines,
Well-
Jack, Pyro, then Amanda.
Jack, I would like for you to skip me. Go ahead, Riverboat Jack.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so a couple of things here. I think that largely what Maddie was saying is true. Like, I think it is a hopeless endeavor in the United States at least to be like, yeah, we're gonna ban all guns, because the amount of effort it would take to remove the Second Amendment is frankly like colossal. Like
We
it's
can't even pass
mind-boggling.
the Equal Rights Amendment, like let alone.
Yeah, like it's not something that, even if it were possible, that's something we're talking about like a 50 years of like sustained political struggle away at best. So like I think we can largely take that off the table as an even marginally realistic solution.
Yeah.
And to Fine's point, I was looking at the study you posted in chat, and yeah, it's another study that confirms what we already know about what fuels violent crime, and what fuels violent crime is often poverty. And so what that study is suggesting is actually stuff like, hey, let's make it possible for, people who are poor to go to college. Let's make it possible to make people more economically mobile. And in order to do that, we need to reconstruct the social safety nets that we used to have in the past and that other developed nations have. And that would help our population become more economically mobile. And that would, in turn, reduce gun violence. And like we could also visit ideas like decommodifying housing, like housing first solutions, which have been extremely successful in Finland and in Canada, as another vehicle for reducing violent crime. Because if you have fewer people who are living in desperate poverty, you're going to have fewer people who are willing to take desperate measures to try and alleviate their situations.
That's a good point.
And so all of that to kind of bolster Maddie's talking point, which is about finding other solutions to the underlying problems rather than targeting the guns themselves. And somebody also mentioned Switzerland. I think it might have been Samantha.
Me and my yelling, it was me.
Okay, if we're gonna be talking about like Switzerland, we also have to acknowledge that like while Switzerland has the third highest rate of like gun ownership in the world, like they also have like red flag laws in Switzerland. Like if you're convicted of like alcohol abuse or like drug abuse or domestic violence, you can't own a gun in Switzerland.
That's not a red flag law.
And so it like stuff like that is in place in Switzerland, and yet it doesn't affect like overall, like most people in Switzerland can still own guns. And in fact,
that's not a red flag law. Red flag law would be like preemptive. If somebody's going to do something and you have knowledge of it, this would be similar. What you're describing is similar to what we have with like protection orders. So when you go get a order of protection from the police or an emergency order of protection from the police, say you have like domestic violence going on and nothing has happened yet, but you're scared, you can get that emergency protection. And they will actually take that person's guns for the time being until it is resolved in court.
Okay.
Actually, no one does come and take. Hold on, wait. No one actually comes and takes the guns. By the way,
well, then you live in a dumbass state. California, they'll come and take your shit. I'll tell you that right now.
So I just
we had a recent Fourth Amendment case that actually proved that the cops were taking people's guns, and it had to go all the way up to the Supreme Court to decide whether or not they're going to give it back. And then they had to define what community caretaking was. It's a shit show. Like no, like cops are taking people's guns with red flag laws, and then
they can avoid
that
by just giving up their guns.
All I'm trying to point out
they
is
won't
that
get them back
gonna,
though. It's crazy.
If we're going to talk about Switzerland being an example of like people owning a lot of guns and having relatively few social problems as a result, we need to look at what Switzerland actually does, and stuff like their laws state like if you express a violent or dangerous attitude, you're not permitted to own a gun. If you have addictions, you're not allowed to buy a gun. Stuff like that. And it is
my county refuses those laws. My county refuses them.
So
sorry, I would love to get into that.
Okay.
So all I'm saying is like there are restrictions that they have in Switzerland that we don't have in the United States. And so if we want to hold up Switzerland as like, well, they have a lot of guns and no problems, well, we need to look at what Switzerland's doing then.
So I just use Switzerland as an example because a lot of people want to say like higher gun ownership leads to higher this, and like not necessarily. There's other programs you fix rather than just trying to put a fucking Band-Aid on it.
So okay, be more. You wanted to take your turn now? That's fine. Just wanted to state quickly that our friend Maddie was muted for 10 minutes. About 4 minutes ago, so just 6 minutes left. So I just want to know.
Leah paid $20 to unmute Maddie.
Yeah, I know. We don't do unmutes. We don't do unmutes because it gets too complicated. Because then it's like, well, the other person, they did pay for this thing, and then all of a sudden, not anymore. There's hurt feelings. There's lots of it. So, though I very much appreciate the money, yeah, we can't do unmutes. So, I got to be consistent there. All right, let's go with Beemore.
So Zen, like what you brought up, like everything Riverboat Jack said was on point. Everything Maddie said was on point. And then there's another weird variable, right? The Second Amendment sanctuary. Look it up on Wikipedia real quick. Second Amendment sanctuary. And Zen, like I assume that you said you live in one, and I also assume that where you live is predominantly white, right? And that's the beauty of Second Amendment sanctuaries. They're locations where their local governments decided they're not going to enforce gun laws. So what? You're going to put the burden on the state? The ATF's only 2,000 field agents strong. They can't go. They can't be everywhere.
They're going to enforce the gun laws that they like, but not the ones they don't like.
Exactly.
And we're down to the county level, like where they're deciding on their own at the county level what the Second Amendment means.
Yep, and this is the reason why when I say gun control is racist, I believe it is. I really do. Because if you take a look at all these Second Amendment sanctuaries, which take up almost 64% of all of America by landmass, so not by population, by landmass. The only locations that will be left with the enforcement of federal gun control will be locations that are predominantly black, or are more likely to have a higher population of black people. So it's like even if we didn't have the Second Amendment, even if you were to pass these bans, they're going to go after key communities like they always had. Somebody on the previous panel was saying, "Oh, this is such a privileged take." When you hear these arguments, they're coming from white people. No, Neo, I'm not white. Okay, hopefully I have enough fucking lighting to prove that. It's some bullshit.
Right.
We got to be careful about this, and that's just my ultimate point.
So let's go to Fines, Pyro, Wordy, Sprout.
Wait, you forgot me.
Oh, and Amanda at the end. Sorry. Yep.
Yeah, so I wanted to address one other argument real quick. So one argument made a lot by people who advocate for gun control at like unreasonable levels is they'll point to like other industrialized and developed nations and say, oh, these nations implemented gun control and their homicides and stuff went down. The issue is that along the same timeline as gun control was being implemented was also around the same time that like the welfare state and a lot of these like more progressive policies were being implemented, which not only increased social mobility but decreased poverty, increased home ownership, and all of these other variables on the economic axis. So like at the end of the day, gun violence and homicides mostly decreased because of economic development and economic mobility. And I think we should be focusing on that as the main solution to gun control.
Let's go to Pyro, Wordy, Sprout, Amanda. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm kind of in this late. I wanted to respond to like some of the earlier points. One, the idea that we're gonna ban guns is like just stupid, right? Like in this country, America, prohibition doesn't work. And lefties, we all admit that, right? Like we talk about it all the time when it comes to drugs and shit like that. Like it doesn't fucking work. I'm gonna throw this grenade in here. I think a good way, I personally think like a decent way we can, try and educate the American populace to use guns maybe a bit safer. Put gun classes back in schools. Like technical gun classes, like we're going to take it apart, we're going to put it together, we're going to show you the bullet. We are not going to load the gun, but we will show you the bullet. We are going to make sure that it is extremely clear from day one that this is not a toy, this is not a, dick extension. This is a very, very, very dangerous tool. And I think that's one thing that like America used to do before the NRA got like really politicized, and then like we kind of stopped doing it, and that might have some influence on like why America's gun culture is the way it is.
Interesting.
So,
All right.
I wanted to, we'll go to Wordy, Sprout, Amanda, Samantha. So Wordy's next, but I did want to like kind of focus on women and guns, right? We have the like gun debate all the time, right? But like, and like this is how I introduced the topic previously, is that like gun advocates constantly say that guns will make women safer, right? They will protect them from assaults, right? From domestic violence and all that, right? So I want to explore whether that was actually true, right? Like we do the whole like ban guns and whatever, right? All the time. But just like, is that the case? Like, do you feel that will actually make women safer? We put more weapons in more hands. So, but okay, let's go to Wordy, please.
All right, so I was going to say, like, the whole idea of like banning guns. If you want to decrease like gun amounts in like the U.S., like attack like the reasons why they're made in the first place, right? We have like a bunch of like lobbyists coming in who are like funding these efforts so they can make more and more guns, and in that process, there's going to be a lot of surplus left over, and that surplus left over gets sold, and a lot of it's available through like auctions and all that stuff. So if you want to really deal with the amount of guns in the U.S., you would go through like dealing with how much their surplus is produced. You want to like decrease that amount, but like for women, the problem comes is sure, women may have more guns, but the problem comes is the people who are abusing have more guns too. So in the instance, like women get more guns and the abusers get even more guns. So the relationship still kind of stays the same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to Sprout, Amanda, Samantha.
I just want to let you know, Prime. Evidently, I'm pissing off your entire chat. I'm all they can talk about right now. But with that being said, I think that a lot of what was talked about was domestic violence, right? And so I do want to point this out, that a domestic violence is a felony if one or more following factors is present during the incident: use of a weapon, severe bodily harm or death, ongoing patterns of abuse, if alcohol and drugs were involved, if the defendant violated a restraining order, if a child or minor witnessed the abusive conduct, and or if the defendant is a repeated offender. With that being said, that would then make the domestic violence a felony. And what happens when you get a felony? Oh, wait, you can't own guns anymore. That's right. So after they go to jail, when they get out, they can't own guns anymore. And for the people who are going to talk about the gun show loophole, have obviously never went to a gun show to buy a gun. There's like one or two people maybe going around selling guns that just personally, but most of the people in a gun show are actually licensed dealers, so they still have to do the background check. Now, one thing that we could suggest possibly is if you're going to make a private-to-private sale, then you go to a licensed dealer, and the licensed dealer runs the background check that a licensed dealer would normally run, and just to make sure that deal is good, to make sure both parties are safe, and to do that legal way, right? But taking away guns is not something that I would be for. I would be for arming women. And a lot of people were saying that it statistically does not make a woman safer. And the statistics are based off of times that they know that something happened, right? How many times was there that this person saw the gun and decided, no, I'm not going to do that, they have a gun? How many times was it just the awareness of the presence of the gun stopped the crime? I'm
Wait,
willing
can
to
I
bet it's a lot
ask
more than
something?
liberals would actually
Why would there
be
be a
willing to see.
difference?
I'm sorry?
Why would there be a difference with the unseen cases? Where you'd probably see the same proportion of women being unable to protect themselves with a gun to ones who can than we do in reported cases. If anything, I feel like America's gun culture would leave a bias in the media in favor of reporting successful gun defense.
Because you never see them. You would never see them because there wouldn't be an attempt to detect. The knowledge or the sight of a gun can prevent crimes. It does, and it will. So with
Yeah,
that
I
being
don't think open carry is that common though.
Can allow crimes
you
too.
don't have to do open carry.
The
'cause
gun
most people-
can easily
And how are they going to know that you have
crimes.
it?
So
You just
most-
claimed that
so-
like them knowing
okay,
that you
okay,
have
can I
it is
keep talking?
preventative.
Okay,
You need
so
open
most-
carry
so-
for that.
And just like you guys were spouting, most of these rapes or when women are sexually assaulted is by someone who knows that person. And if they know that person, they would probably know that they carry a gun or whether they don't carry a gun. Especially if it's inside of a house, it's pretty easy to tell whether or not someone's carrying a gun. As much as they sit down, get up, it wouldn't be hard.
Whatever.
What you're saying is that somebody who does have a gun will feel more empowered to abuse their friend because they're safer as well.
Well, that's a dumbass take.
What the
Well,
hell?
they're both equally safer. So
I
my
have no
confusion
idea.
is my confusion lies within when do they actually, you say it's preventative. I don't really think that's the case, because you can't just draw something on somebody because they sexually harassed you or something, and then
You don't have to draw it. It can be on a countertop. It can be on your table.
By the time you're being assaulted, they can just take the fucking gun from you.
Which is why
I didn't even stretch enough for these mental gymnastics. Let me go stretch before we doing this shit.
which is why I 100% agree that each state should adopt a law called the castle doctrine. That you live in your castle
not in
and
your
you have the
home.
ability to
If you're getting
defend your
assaulted in
castle.
somebody else's home, then your fucking abuser gets to use castle doctrine and say whatever the hell happened is the case.
Well,
Really,
I mean,
you
if
just
you
think
invite
that's what
somebody to your
happened?
house, you're basically consenting, right?
No, that's
Oh no.
I had to
I'm
drop
not
the Destiny
frustrated.
take. I had to.
Oh,
sorry.
boy.
Not sorry. I'm not sorry. Fuck it. Let's go.
Hey, just be sorry that you didn't call him regressony. We're missing a golden opportunity here as leftists. He's on a regressony arc. Like, come
Okay.
on, people.
All right. So Sprout, you can respond if you want to. Then we'll go to Amanda and Samantha, and then then Wordy. We'll go to
I mean, I'll just give a quick recap that if you do anything that was said, that it's a felony and you can't have guns afterwards. And I fully think that women are much safer with a gun than without a gun. And just because the statistics that the left is going to bring up says that they're not safer, that's of known cases. There's a lot of unknown cases that aren't.
You brought
there
up fairy
because of
tale
what happened.
statistics that don't
No,
exist.
it's not fairy tale statistics.
No, it's just not fair, and I get your point. I don't even know how to say your damn name, Sprouticus. Like we obviously have death certificates, but we don't have defensive gun usage certificates. Like we
Right.
obviously record deaths, right? It's like
Right.
even if
There's no such thing as police reports. There's no such thing as those. We need death certificates specifically.
Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my
Go ahead,
time.
Amanda. Go ahead. You're right.
Dang. Okay, so when people talk about the loopholes lately, it's more in regards to the boyfriend loophole, which is that the federal law, defines domestic violence between married partners. So that whole basically boyfriends are not included in the law, in the Violence Against Women's Act. So that's a loophole that was brought up earlier. So I don't know if you, Sprouticus, got confused or we're just bringing up a different point on that topic. I know in my state that if someone is charged with a felony or in domestic violence, they are supposed to have their guns taken away. There is no task force or any means for anyone to come get those guns. So they are required to hand them over themselves. And if they don't, there's literally like no repercussions. You could try to call the police, but that doesn't have any weight. I know this personally because I went through the situation. Like I said, I posted my video in the chat. I also worked with Be a Hero with the Violence Against Women's Act, and I shared my story. I wrote an op-ed in the Gazette. There is literally no task force to take guns away from anyone who's supposed to have their guns taken away. The other thing is we're continually talking about guns being protection for women, but I think what we need to consider is, why are we needing protection? Like, what are we needing protection from? We're needing protection from violent, typically men. So how about we move this conversation and figure out why the fuck men are so violent? And actually, there's a really great book out there called Why Men Abuse. And the author does state that they only use men in this context just for clarity, where they do know, women are also abusers and whatnot. So I'm using men in the same sense in that way. But the thing is that's where this topic needs to go. Like, in order to protect women, we need to protect them against the people harming them, because that's the issue. So I'm not here to take away anyone's guns. I'm here to stop violence. And so let's fucking do it. Like, let's do it.
I mean,
like,
let's get.
Cool.
I
Well,
don't have anything against adding boyfriends to the domestic violence law. I don't have anything against. Let's take a look at these laws. Let's take a look at the underlying causes of what's happening, and let's adjust there. But telling women not to get guns, telling women not to protect themselves when it is their right to protect themselves, seems asinine to me, and it's only going to make the problem worse.
So let's go to.
But I think arming them to protect them is another Band-Aid, and statistically it isn't effective. And again, like, let's just stop the violence. We don't want your guns. Keep your guns. Just don't murder people.
Does
Good.
anybody
Well,
have?
you don't speak for the entire left or the Democratic Party or the liberals. But here's the thing: you're going back to my point, where rather than these people that want to ban guns, we need to fix the laws. The people in chat that were saying, well,
Yes.
domestic violence is under prosecuted. Correct. That's because we need to fix this program and not just ban something, putting a band-aid on it, saying, oh, look, well, this is the
That's because
outcome
you're
is
gonna
these
love
guns
that.
do bad things. You got to
It's
change
not
the laws that
fixed,
help
dude.
this fucking be facilitated.
And
Okay?
women are
And,
even
like,
safer if we
and
do
hold
both.
on, I'm not fucking done, cuck. Jesus Christ, you fucking leaf shit.
I know you're afraid of me.
I'm not afraid. Shut the fuck up.
Okay, then respond to my
By
point
the
that women
way,
are safer if
Prime,
we
you
do
need
both.
to
I
cut
was
her hand
talking.
out
You
for a really,
interrupted
really
me,
long
you
time.
fucking cunt. Can you just shut the fuck up and let me speak for once? Jesus fucking Christ, you
You're gonna make a
anti-Semitic
bigger
twat.
deal out of this than you need to.
Yes. Now hold on.
Okay, then let me just say something.
my
Women are
God.
safer if we do both.
Shut the fuck up.
Okay.
I'm trans. Okay, I'm not. I don't have a fear of.
Both of you calm down for 2 seconds. Okay, great. Thank you. And Maddie's unmuted. But thank you, Bastiat, who I missed so much. Hey, buddy, I miss you. Like, it's nice to see you, buddy. It was streaming again. Thank you for the raid, the massive raid, 93 individuals. Okay, raiders, what we're doing right now, my name's Prime. In case you don't know, what we're doing now is having open walk-on panel where audience members like you, yes, you, talking to you, may be a part of it, right? We are talking about do guns actually protect women? Right, we're talking about whether guns actually protect women. Like gun rights advocates always say, right? That's always one of their points, that like if we give guns to women, that'll protect them from violence, right? So we're actually having a debate on this, right? If that interests you, hey, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, hit that follow button, make sure notifications are on. We do this 6 days a week. We always have more content coming your way, right? Don't want you to miss out. So please be so kind as to hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on. We'll be back into the future, right? Plenty of content coming your way. But we'll continue on with this open panel. We'd love to have you here as well. Exclamation point open in chat. Thank you, Nair Socks, helping us out. So hey, hit that follow button right now, and thank you once again. Shout out to Bastia. Hope you had an amazing stream. Nice to see you again. Bastia's a great guy. I'm not sure if I hit the shout out button before, but I'll do it again because he's a great guy. I like him. All right, so Samantha.
Now
and
that
Amanda,
I've been interrupted by Ninetales and Prime, I will finish my point. Okay. You know, this is my whole point of addressing the fucking underlying problem. Yes, it's under prosecuted. We need to fix that. Yes, policing is bad. We need to fix that. Like, why does things have to be demonized with guns? Okay, I'm a trans person. I don't fear violence from men. I fear violence from fucking white Karens. I fear violence from people when I'm just trying to take a piss in a fucking Costco bathroom, for fuck's sake. So yeah, I carry a fucking gun because I have a little bit more to fucking be afraid of, because there's not only just fucking men that are a problem to me. I have to deal with fucking transphobic women too, and fucking TERFs. Welcome to the Bay Area. It's loaded with TERFs. Fucking shithole. So like, it's a huge fucking problem. So like, I'm not gonna have my fucking safety net and taken away from me. And I don't think that we should be taking safety nets away from fucking minorities. And we don't want to get to fucking nitty gritty of it. There's more violence caused by men towards other men than there is from men towards women.
You know what? As a Canadian trans woman, I don't want a gun being pulled on me. So I think we can do both. And everyone's safer if we both get rid of guns and then deal with the issues that lead to gun violence. And when you do both,
about that, who's currently in a knife buyback?
you get rid of this. When you do both, you get rid of this self-fulfilling prophecy that I have to be afraid of other people with guns because they exist.
Why are you making the 1930s prohibition argument, Ninetales? Because that's literally what you're doing right now.
Guess what? We don't just have to target gun owners. We can actually target established gun manufacturers who are the only ones who have the means to mass produce guns. When we get rid of, let me finish. When we get rid of gun mass production, we get rid of mass amounts of guns.
You know,
and then when we're done with that, like the UK, they'll do mandatory knife buybacks just like the UK. Then the knife fucking crime goes up just like the UK. There's other problems because the UK didn't address fucking upward mobility. The UK didn't address fucking healthcare.
That's why we do both.
The UK didn't address fucking societal issues and fucking money problems that are going with the fucking lower demographics. Instead, they're like, oh, guns bad, violence bad, and then they fucked everything else up. Rather than us just fucking doing the right thing, rather than fucking putting a fucking Band-Aid, right? Do the right thing, fix all these other fucking issues, see where it goes before you start taking away fucking people's safety nets.
Okay.
Fucking dumbass.
Okay, but like, you're saying it's like a safety net. Like, how often does a gun actually protect you, right? Like
I feel that I don't leave my house. I don't feel safe without it.
You're talking about a Costco washroom. What are you going to do if someone draws a gun on you? And let me tell you right now, you might be safer, and I'm really happy for you, Sam, but those other kids in that washroom suddenly aren't now. They're in a lot of fucking danger. So the safety of everyone else around you goes down, and that's a key thing to remember.
So
What about the children?
Like, I just
I
gotta
mean, at least
say,
someone's thinking about them,
I
not the
just gotta
people in the
say-
washroom.
okay,
I just got to say real quick, this is unironically the 1930s prohibition argument. When they had this argument about alcohol, everything you're saying, Nine Tails, was the argument, right? It causes
That's
violence.
what you need to
in
brew
criminals,
alcohol, Pyro.
domestic-
You need a fucking bucket and a bacterial culture and some fruit. To make
Yeah.
a gun, you need machinery, and that machinery is not suitable
Well,
at a consumer
I
level.
don't-
Let me finish. The majority of that
printing.
machinery is not suitable at consumer level for mass productions of firearms. It's
Do you
simply
think
not.
Americans won't find a way to make guns if the government says no? I honestly don't know.
Guys, you know what?
Canadian
People are
government
gonna
would
break
do.
the
Think
law.
the amount of
You
guns
just
will go
freaking
down
guys,
if
people are
gonna break a
producing
law
them?
if you
No,
make a
it's
law.
actually bullshit. It's
Everyone's
actually bullshit.
talking.
It's actually bullshit to say that gun ownership won't go down if companies are prevented from legally producing them. They will, and
You're right.
It's a fantasy.
You're right.
to
It's
pretend
so
otherwise.
hard being a
Wait,
law-abiding
time out.
criminal.
so
Come on, did I say that like
You
gun
have to be a
ownership
criminal
was
to own a
supposed
gun
to
instead
count?
of
hold on, so-
instead of a law-abiding citizen. That's the point.
we
Then
got
gun
You
ownership
can't
goes
have
down.
that
never
argument.
said-
Stop. Thank you. Great. Appreciate it. So we got some people who are waiting. So Pyro, it was your turn. So if you have a point to finish, please do. We'll go to
Yeah.
Rory, Samantha, and Jack.
My only point, like I never said that gun ownership.
Hold on, sorry. You keep skipping Unicat, and
Oh, I
she's
can't
had
see
her hand
her.
up
I
since
can't see.
did,
I can't
like,
see.
way long ago.
Stop.
Her eyes are on
I literally
fire.
cannot see you. Unicat, I can't see you. Whatever you were doing here, I literally cannot see you. Especially.
I can give up my spot for her if you want.
That's not the
I mean, she
point.
has been waiting for half an hour before she did any of this.
Oh my god. So like I literally cannot see you. I'm saying because like you're tiny on my screen. You're like I didn't know your hand was up. But okay. So let's go with Pyro, and then we'll put Unicat at the end. Sure. Pyro?
Yeah, Nine Tails, I never said that gun ownership wouldn't go down, but like the argument you're making is literally prohibition, right? Like we did this in America when it came to alcohol, and while like manufacturing and shit like that did go down at first, it created a massive black market that led to like the whole stereotypical Al Capone gang culture in America. I personally don't want to see that happen with fucking guns in this country. You think America's gun culture is bad now? Wait till the government tells you you can't have a gun, and then these fucking idiots be like, well, god damn it, I need to get me a gun as soon as possible, because that's gonna happen.
So like a large part of that boom of the black market was the supply and the demand curve. The supply and demand curve are both lessened here because on one hand, in the form of supply, you cannot make guns at the level of alcohol that you can in your basement. I'm sorry, they're just completely different commodities as far as logistics go. And on the supply side, the amount of demand, on the demand side, the amount of demand you see right now is based on the amount of legal ownership. Demand will go down when legal ownership goes down. So therefore, it'll be much harder to have a black market than in the Prohibition era. I'm sorry, that's just silly.
Okay, let's go to Verdi, Samantha, and then Jack and Unicat.
All right. So so when we talk about laws aren't addressing the issue. They're more as a means of punishment more than anything when you look at individuals. Basically, laws like harm the citizens instead of like harming like factories and industries and such. And maybe it decreases it to some extent, but it doesn't stop it. And the problem comes with gun laws is they usually typically disproportionately affect minorities more than anything. And you basically like look at like the people who get targeted in like imprisonment and felons and shit, and then they're prevented from owning guns. And like as a whole, like you have to look at which groups it hits the most often. So the problem comes with like gun ownership and laws trying to ban people from owning guns is you look at it who it harms the most significantly, and you can see it's pretty well minorities more than anything, and that's a big problem.
Thank you. All right.
I mean, the National Firearms Act was specifically designed to go after poor people. If you
true.
think, I mean, the National Firearms Act put automatic weapons, put suppressors, it put the guns that you guys think are illegal behind a paywall. You pay a certain amount of money for a tax stamp. You wait for the tax stamp to come in, then you can legally own that firearm. The only people that can't do it are the poor and the people who don't have the poor, the people who don't have the capital to be able to spend on that specific firearm. So only the
This
rich
is already an
are
issue
able to
of
buy
gun
whatever
ownership.
gun they want.
This is already an issue of gun ownership. Like the accessibility of guns depends on how much money you have. I'm sorry, that's just basic
It's not
shit.
the same.
But on top of that, like the answer isn't not to do gun legislation or gun control or banning guns. The answer is to get rid of those mechanisms that led to that discrimination.
So
Yeah,
we
repeal the NRA.
gotta let some other people in who are waiting. We gotta move on. Okay. So Samantha, Jack, and then Unicat, please.
And then me.
Oh, and Sumtar, please. Yep. Oh, she's gone. All right, so let's go to Jack then.
Okay. So just a few things. Okay. So, most of the studies on when it comes to firearms involved in like domestic abuse situations, domestic violence situations, don't stipulate that like whether or not like the woman had the gun. It's merely the presence of a gun being in that situation intensifies the lethality of the abuse. And that's something that affects. I know the main conversation focus here is supposed to be on how that affects women, but one out of 9 men are victims of domestic abuse, and violent domestic abuse. So while it does predominantly affect women, let's not forget that firearms are also lethal to men in domestic abuse situations who are the victims of abuse. And on top of that, when we're talking about, laws that are going to prevent like domestic abusers from, owning guns in the first place, well, it turns out that almost half of all domestic abuse situations don't get reported to the police because abused people don't go and report to the police if they're still with their abuser. And so this is what is part of what like traps abuse victims in these cycles of abuse until it intensifies and becomes lethal eventually. So essentially the majority of domestic violence occur before like police can actually arrive, even if they're called. Like it's a whole clusterfuck when we actually start getting into this, and the better solution would be to have stronger social safety nets so that women could leave those dangerous situations without being in devastating economic situations, economic scenarios. So
I mean,
like
the better
a lot of times
solution is when we can
there's a
do
lot of
both
times,
and
though,
get like the maximal impact.
So
Wait,
there's a
do
lot of times though,
both what?
Get rid of like ban guns and
Okay, but
deal with the
like
social safety
I
nets.
feel like I already established at the beginning of this that when if you're talking about like just blanket banning all guns in the United States, that's like fantasy. Like that's
I'm not
like
talking
George
about
R. R.
reducing the
Martin.
number to 0. I'm talking about making it impossible to produce legally, impossible to own legally, and to severely limit the amount of excuses that
literally
someone can have to own
impossible
a gun.
to do.
Yeah, that's
Like
fantasy land.
we have 3D printing
How many-
technology right now that allows you to print a fully automatic weapon for
No,
like
by production I mean an
$250.
industrial scale, and
We
I'm
have
saying like
titanium
yeah,
3D
saying-
printers
I'm
printing
saying-
modular suppressors at this current second.
yeah, I'm
We have
guaranteeing you
people
that
printing
okay, for
entire
starters,
car
those
exhausts out of
titanium printers. I've
Like,
talked to people. Those
oh my.
titanium printers do not print hot enough to make you
Until
a well
you're
forged
living
gun.
in a
Like, that's
fantasy.
little-
No,
we have
Yeah,
3D
you keep saying
printed
fantasy.
titanium
No,
items
you keep
now.
saying fantasy.
Is it
That's
fantasy?
where we actually supposed to get rid of the amount of guns if we keep letting people produce them. That's the fucking fantasy. So, and I don't mean people, I mean corporations, just to be super clear. So as soon as we get rid of the gun manufacturing companies, then the amount of access people have to guns drops dramatically.
no,
And that's
not
the
if
key
they can
point here.
buy a
That's the key
$250
point.
3D printer and make them themselves.
And not only that,
They
but
will
they're
find
done with
again,
them.
like
If you
again,
tell
like
them
if
to
we're
ban
talking
culture
about a black
manufacturers-
market, if we're talking about a black
No,
market,
I'm not even talking about a black market. You're
I
not
know,
going to
I
be able to
know.
outlaw 3D
And,
printers.
again, you still think I'm
If-
talking about people printing things. It like that you can regulate that, but that's a different story. I'm
can
talking
come
about
in here.
I'm talking about companies not having an economy where you allow companies to make guns. Because then, if we're talking about accessibility, having a country that's saturated with guns, with so many guns, makes it more accessible. If somebody has to print a gun,
I don't see the route to achieve this.
I didn't
at
make my
all.
concluding statement. You're not even responding to what I'm saying. If somebody has to print a gun, that's still less accessible than being able to buy one from your local drug dealer.
Well, most people wouldn't buy one from their local drug dealer if they can print it cheaper. at home.
Well, not only that, but like the issue here
You
is like
still have to
your
buy the
solution.
printer, the materials, and
Your
gain like
solution will
Yeah,
require
it's cheaper
your
than buying
solution is
guns.
literally like the
significant
authoritarian
skills to make that
nightmare
work.
that most like right wingers like cringe about or cry about is like this. Oh, they're coming to take our guns and take our ability to
You're
take our
literally
guns.
doing the meme.
It's
I
literally
don't
the
care about right-wing
authoritarian
arguments,
video
just to
or
be
work.
clear.
Yeah, we're gonna take your fucking AR-15 meme that like kills the conversation in the bed and ends any kind of like
Yeah, well, they're being
practical
babies. I
solutions
don't
that will
pander to
start
them.
things.
Ninetales,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
it's
gonna
not about people
You're
being
not being
babies. It's
babies,
about
you're
doing
not being
practical solutions for
realistic.
practical problems. Hey, I was speaking.
Holy
So anyway,
shit.
No,
it's
I'm the only.
about
Actually,
practical
I'm the only one
solutions to
here who
practical
actually
problems.
wants
It's
to.
not about people being babies. It's about people actually putting out solutions that could actually work and can actually help people today.
But that's the
Now-
difference. Is like I'm not just going to talk about pandering to people. I'm talking about
I won't talk
actually
about pandering.
No. I'm saying Riverboat said it's better if we only do one. And if we're talking about from
I
the
didn't
very
say
narrow
that. You're
scope,
putting
if we're
words in my
talking,
mouth. Why are you
if
lying
we're
about what I
talking
said?
about, you said it's better if we address the social causes rather than dealing with the amount of guns.
I
We
said
could do
that
both.
it's only
what I'm
feasible
saying.
to address the social underlying causes in the United States. I know you.
That's true.
I know you're talking about this other thing, but like what you're suggesting would be literally like 50 to 100 years down the line of constant
that.
Yeah,
campaigning.
great. No, like I'm literally not saying that. Like I don't get like this moving the goalpost to what can we do literally right this second. We
Well,
could
that's
also
what we're
have
talking
massive.
about.
We could also have massive electoral reforms, which would make it easier to vote in politicians.
So
Guess
I
who are
what?
think-
We could live in
so-
a magical land where there's no crime.
That's
Fantasy
the
land.
magical
Wow,
Yeah,
what about
I
that?
agree.
That's the
So if
goalpost
we
you
can
created. That's
point
the
of
fucking
order.
goalpost you just created.
Point of order, real quick. So again, this is something I brought up in like the last panel that I talked about here. We need to get through like the moral question first before we can get into the practical question here. Do we morally believe that people ought not own guns or ought not be allowed to have firearms, or at least there shouldn't be as many firearms in the United States as there are currently? Like the final statement, I'm pretty sure most people here agree with. There maybe shouldn't be as many firearms in the United States as there currently are. Some people might disagree with that, but I think most panelists here are going to agree with that. Now, the main part of the disagreement is whether or not people, the common person, should be allowed to own firearms in the first place. And I would argue personally, that yes, you should. You should be allowed to own a firearm.
So
I'll die with a blunt in one
so
hand and a gun in the other.
Someone here on the panel paid to mute Ninetales for 10 minutes. But thank you for that particular donation.
Yeah, get that cheddar prime.
The Canadian can finally stay quiet and let the Americans talk about
All right,
guns.
sorry,
Oh,
So here's the thing.
Keep her quiet. It's not to hear your bullshit.
Well,
I agree.
I paid for her to be quiet. So
Okay.
it is to hear my bullshit. All right. So
Oh my god.
yeah.
You
So
sound so wealthy.
okay. So
$10.
anyways,
Oh my
here's the thing.
God.
Oh yeah.
Now that you're
Please.
saying
Hey, I
Take
couldn't
down
do
the
it.
bourgeoisie with this
I
$10
couldn't-
shit.
Let's all unite
I
on
can't
this one
afford it
issue,
right
okay?
now.
Let's unite on this one issue. Don't.
Okay, so
So we're not.
So okay, Sprouticus, finish your point. Then Jack,
Okay.
I'll make sure you finish your point. Then I'm going to go to Unicat. Okay.
So we're not supposed to be talking about banning guns. I mean that was specifically supposed to not be part of the discussion. But evidently the Canadian just wants to keep talking about it because that's what Canadians do. Okay, so you can just stay in Canada for a second and let the Americans
Cruz was the
discuss
Canadian.
this. With this being
tell
said,
the foreigner to stay and go
With-
back where
so-
you came from.
I'm pretty sure she's still in Canada, so I'm not telling her to go
Yeah,
back where
she's
she came from.
country.
But what I am saying is that I think that we need to look at where this is coming from. We need to change laws, not ban guns, not tell women they don't have the right to self-defense. These are things we should not tell women. We should encourage women to be trained on weapons. We should encourage women to carry for self-defense reasons. But we definitely need to change laws. We need to change laws when it comes to mental health. We need to change laws when it comes to domestic abuse. We need to make sure these things are taken care of. But this does not equate to banning guns. I'm sorry, it just those two aren't equal. So
Okay. Let's go to Jack. If you didn't get the chance to finish your point, please do, and then Unicat.
So one of the stats that's really interesting that came out of a 1992 study is that intimate partner violence, which is basically a subcategory of domestic abuse that involves like current or former romantic partners. If there's a gun present in that abusive situation, the lethality of the encounter multiplies by 12 times. Like, so basically, no one's saying that women shouldn't defend themselves. I don't know how you're interpreting like that women. It's not a good idea statistically for women to carry a gun into an abuse situation, as women shouldn't defend themselves. All this means is that the presence of a firearm in a close domestic abuse situation makes it incredibly more lethal, and usually the victim is going to be of the violence is going to be the abused person and not the abuser. So this is just the data we have, and we need to go on the data we have, because when we were talking about like how often do guns like stop crimes, that's a situation we just don't have good data on, and you need to be able to present good data to back up that argument. And I like, especially when we're talking about something as serious as like women surviving or abuse victims in general surviving abuse at the hands of their partners.
No, I think we should
psychological warfare.
design a system. I think we should design a system to allow women to escape abuse. I do. Unfortunately, from the people that I talked to that have been stuck in abusive situations, they felt like they were stuck there. It wasn't because of economically. It wasn't because of this. It was because they felt like they loved this person and they would do better next time. It's exactly what Maddie said. It's psychological warfare. It's emotional manipulation. And we need to teach women that this is not okay. This is not okay whatsoever, and to not stay in this. But unfortunately, it's something we deal with men and women. I know a couple of men that have ended up in the same exact situation. So
what I don't want to minimize like men in that situation at all. The issue is that a lot of people do stay for economic reasons, and that we should address that underlying problem so that people who are in a mental state to leave are able to leave safely. And the other thing that I'm seeing with your argument is you seem to be under the impression that you buy a gun and have like one encounter with your abuser that goes in your favor and then it's done. When a lot of domestic abuse can spin off into ongoing things that aren't necessarily direct encounters. Stuff like stalking, stuff like
let me tell you real quick.
So
ruining your life.
we gotta hurry because we got people waiting. We got a Unicat and Amanda.
I can't respond to that.
Look, come on, you respond to a lot. You'll get a chance, right? We'll get back to you.
All right.
So we'll go to Unicat and Unicat. Like I'm trying to tell you that with the filter on, like I can't see if you raise your hand. That's what I'm trying to tell you. But Unicat, please go ahead.
You're muted.
If you're talking, you're muted.
Is, girl, I'm like.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Like
yeah.
Okay. I turned the fire filter off because. Anyways. So I would like to respond to the question of will guns protect women? In the short term, yes, it will. I mean, individual cases of domestic violence, like women can, I guess, like if it works in their favor, can protect themselves from their abuser, but in the long term, it's not going to do anything. The general rate of domestic violence is probably not going to go down. Like, what if, like, and once again, like, it's assuming that it goes out of in their favor. Like, it's possible that their abuser will like wrestle the gun out of their hand or something and turn it on them. The rate of abusers, the number of abusers is probably not going to go down. Like, individual ones will be killed, but it's like it's not fixing anything. It feels like not putting a band-aid on it, but it feels like putting a band-aid on a broken arm that has a visible gash on it, but you don't see the rest of the arm until like you get to the hospital, and then you have to inspect it and like see what's broken, what needs to be fixed, and then you realize it's not just the arm that's broken, it's also like your shoulder is broken and it can't move. Like there's so much
oh, you have
stuff.
cancer? Here's an ibuprofen.
What? Yeah, pretty much. Like it like there's a bunch of different stuff that goes into it.
And now you all understand how the Veterans Administration works.
Can I talk?
It's okay.
I was citing VA.
The Unicat.
Thank you. Anyways, there's so much to unpack with this, and like there's and it's not as simple as just here's guns and it'll be solved. Like people will also start to find workarounds, like in situations like stalking and stuff like that. If someone like knows you have a gun, or word has it women are walking around with guns and stuff like that, people who have malicious intent will start walking around in gangs or something like that. And so I don't know. And also a point I wanted to bring up, I'm a black woman. What are people gonna do if they see me with a gun? I don't like.
I support it.
White women.
Yeah, exactly.
White women can go around with guns, but if I'm walking around with a gun, and Lord forbid I was darker,
no, congratulations.
She's made a fantastic point. And I'll unmute our good friend Ninetails. But I think Unicat made a fantastic point at the end, talking about the differences in how races are treated. Yes, there are open carry states where it's legal to do so, right? As a law-abiding citizen. But that doesn't mean that the cops will not shoot you, for carrying a gun or a toy gun. Or when you say, hey, I have a gun in my glove department, right? I'm notifying I have a gun in my glove department, just so you know, so you're not scared, and then they shoot you any which way, right? So you can have these laws on the books for gun rights, right? That doesn't mean that everyone gets to exercise this right.
I'd like to tell everyone a story. It's called Melanie.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
It's my turn.
Whoa, Prime. Oh, somebody else's turn. What's going on?
Yeah, it's Amanda's turn, and then we'll go to you, Beemore, and then Ninetails, and then Samantha. Yeah.
I didn't get to finish my point.
Oh, you didn't finish your point? I thought you were done. All right.
I was able to write up a whole page of notes in the 45 minutes I had my hand up. But anyways, as I'm trying to say, this is a layered problem. Guns might fix it for women temporarily, but then it doesn't fix the underlying problem. I don't think guns for women is a productive way of doing it. If a state wants to do that, then fine. If a woman wants to buy that to protect herself, then I don't know, fine. But to say it's an effective solution, I think is just wrong and counterproductive, and I don't understand how people aren't seeing that. There's so much more to address. And from earlier, the just take the guns away thing, once again, that's a simplistic solution, and I don't know who it was. Someone said they don't like it when people from the U.S. use other countries who have put gun control in it as a solution to it, because once again, it just shows that you don't know how complex of an issue this is, and people in those countries will say the same thing about the U.S. Just do what we did and you won't have a problem anymore, when that's just simply not the case. So I don't know. I'm hearing a lot of simple solutions on this panel, and I don't know what to tell you. That's pretty much.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Sprout, don't even put your hand up because you've been counter muted for 10 minutes. But I'll put you on the end of the list. And by that time, we'll probably be.
His gun's not muted though, right?
No, his gun isn't muted. No, we can't do that.
You got to pay a tax stamp for suppressor.
You guys make a lovely couple.
Okay, and then where do you? I see your hand up too. I'll put you on the list as well. All right. Let's go to.
That's Samantha.
Can I get on the list, Prime?
Yeah, of course you can. All right. So
awesome.
Let's go to Amanda, and then Amanda, Beemore, Samantha, Sprout, Wordy, Saboteur. All right.
Yeah. So my internet went out, so I'm on my phone, and so I'll probably log off after this. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Perfect. Okay. No. So I just wanted to make a point that the reason women don't leave is so they're actually mostly it's danger and fear. You're more likely to be murdered when trying to leave an abusive relationship than you are if you stay. You're also in isolation. There's also shame and embarrassment involved, trauma, low confidence, and practical reasons because like abusers typically control almost every aspect of their victims' lives, including like financially, access to cars, even taking, you know, their phones and things like that. There's no support network necessary, no support available, even within like family. So I'm not just talking about like government resources and stuff, but like family resources and support. And that's typically because people do not know how to interact with abuse victims. It's constant, oh, why don't you leave? Why are you still in this relationship? And what you need to be asking abuse victims is, how can I help? And when they go back to that relationship, you let them know that they have a place to stay when they're ready to leave. So that's how we fix that problem. And I just have to make that point because as a victim of domestic violence and a survivor and someone who has advocated this on the federal level with the Violence Against Women's Act, I just needed to make sure that that point was very clear and we're not spouting stigmas.
Thank you for the work that you put into this. Seriously, like
thank you.
Yeah, it means a lot.
I'm gonna mute myself and stay on to listen, but yeah. Cool.
Okay, great. Yeah, but like we want to thank the organizers out there, like Maddie, another organizer, right? And maybe there's someone else here. But yeah, like that doing the hard work and like for the Violence Against Women Act, right? We need people behind the scenes making those things happen. But thank you for that point, Amanda. All right, so let's go to B More, Samantha, Sprout, Wordy, Sevatar. All right.
So yeah, so overall, like racism is real. Like, you know, racism in policing and the way laws are enforced. But at the same, well, like, but I'm not gonna sit here and tell black people don't buy guns because racist cops might shoot you. Like literally, like no, like don't do something because you might be targeted by racism. What the fuck? That is the nastiest form of victim blaming. But I'm not saying anybody did that here. But that's just my perspective on that issue. I've lived in open carry states. I've open carried before. But only like to and from ranges, like very lightly. Black people are not getting blasted for open carrying, right? Is overall. But yeah, we need to address racism versus the point of like black people, black gun ownership. I like black gun ownership. But Amanda brought up the best point here is that we need to establish a better system for domestic abuse victims to get away. Like they should be able to. We need to establish a system where you can go somewhere and we can hide you. We can get you to another state. If you need to go across America to get away from someone, right? If you need a team to help monitor you, to help make sure you get to where you need to be, we need to bankroll this. Like domestic violence affects a lot of people, right? But in my opinion, not enough people for us to warrant having a budget when it comes to handling this issue. Like we're the greatest nation in America. We can afford to do this.
That's a fantasy.
It might be, right? But
I want to tell you a story.
Real quick. I think
shut up, leaf shit.
I really do believe giving people the proper resources necessary to escape violent partners is far more realistic.
So is Canada.
Far more realistic than banning over 400,000 objects in society, stopping the means of production, somehow stifling 3D printing, somehow dealing with the fact that technology is going to constantly evolve. I think literally writing a nice blank check on figuring out how the fuck to deal with this when it comes to research and sending people away if necessary, getting them out of where they're at, somewhere safer. This is not a pipe dream. We could do this shit. It's far more realistic than your dream.
So first of all, getting people to move completely uproots their life and definitely makes the worst case for victims.
No, it needs to be on the table.
Ideal,
it needs to simply need to be an option.
Don't cut me off. Don't cut me off. Don't cut you off anymore.
Let her respond, though, please.
And yeah, so like when we can provide, or sorry, when we need to relocate people, we obviously should, and there should be plenty of resources for that. However, this also assumes that the cops tend to listen to abuse victims, which they don't. And furthermore, the issue of race, or in my instance, being transgender, doesn't just come down to being shot by the police or not. I'm going to tell you a story. It's called Mill Uses Her Gun. So one day and this is hypothetical, by the way. One day I'm walking down the street. Somebody says, "Give me your money, or I'll kill you," or something like that, right? So instead of giving my money, I pull out a gun. They pull out their gun, and I shoot them because they drew their weapon on me. I should be okay, right? So the cops come, and I tell them it was out of self-defense, yada yada yada. Even if they believe me, they still have to take me in jail. Do you think in most prison systems, transgender women get sent to women's prisons like they should? I don't trust that. I feel like I'm going to get sent to a men's prison and get raped for defending myself because they're certainly not going to not rape me. I've already been to jail. They're bad enough when you're not transgender, okay? So I'm going to tell you right now, the fantasy is in that you can just hold a gun up to somebody and you're safe, and then like we can just suddenly rely on the legal system to protect abuse victims. It already fails at that. That's part of the problem.
Look, I really wanted to talk about what we need to do to help women or help domestic abuse victims, right? I know you brought up this little robbery hypothetical, but at the end of the day, like I do believe it's less of a pipe dream to allocate the proper resources to help these individuals out and actually meet their material conditions. Like this is far more realistic.
It just relies
Like,
on so many
Okay.
variables. It just relies on so many variables that like historically haven't proved out to work that way.
It's okay. You know what? Just like you want to advocate for something impossible, then I guess I'm going to also do the same when it
But in
comes
so
to
many other
actually,
countries, it's
like-
only impossible because you use this gun culture as a self-fulfilling prophecy.
So
Like,
okay.
honestly,
Second
the more you
Amendment.
fearmonger,
So now you're saying my solution is possible.
The biggest
saying
flaw
my-
in America
what the
is that
hell?
people aren't afraid enough of guns.
Okay.
Can we
Okay.
just point out that Wish.com Destiny is bouncing a fucking shotgun on his head right now?
Is he?
That's okay. Well, my friend Sprouticus here
American
is that Nacho?
Hell yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is that a real
Hell
shotgun?
yeah.
He really knows how to
sorry,
fire
we
a
have
gun.
one over here. I didn't know what she was referring to, but we have one
that's
over
how you
here.
know
Not
he
only
has
is he
elite gun training
demonstrating
right there.
responsible gun ownership, he's demonstrating like Zen concentration.
Oh my god.
And like peacefulness. Look
Maddie,
at him.
would you call the balancing on the head mental gymnastics?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
Forget
Okay.
trigger
I'm gonna say
discipline,
this much though: if someone came at me with a gun balance on their head, I wouldn't imagine they're balanced. Personally,
Dude, no, that's how you like.
Look at him. Look
That's how
Well,
you
you have to do it while
establish
T-posing to
dominance.
establish
Yeah, that's how you
Hey, somebody
establish
make him
dominance.
laugh. Somebody make him
I'm
laugh so it'll fall.
So-
I do have to say that is a
self-care
shotgun. That
icon
is
over here.
that is Joe Biden's approved defensive firearm. This
Oh
this
boy.
saying.
Hey, there you go.
Obama
yeah.
did
Well,
shoot trap and speed also.
for home
Presidents love
defense though, it
shotguns.
is pretty based.
Okay.
For home defense, I
It
do
hasn't
advocate
even,
for
like,
shotguns.
wavered. It's still
Yeah, with
boy.
fire, with dragon fire, dude. It's some good
Yeah, light
memes.
it up.
Mesmerized.
Magnesium.
Okay.
To be
Okay.
fair, like that is probably the safest way to wield a gun, so long as you're not using like vacuous thought experiments to make it pretend like you're safer with a gun in your hand.
Well, that's
So-
a typical Canadian
Literally
take.
all I do
I
is
agree.
vacuum
Oh my
stuff.
god.
that
So
thought experiment shouldn't be vacuous and only work in a vacuum.
okay. Great.
That's what's
So-
keeping it on my
Oh
head.
my god. All right, great. So, we got a lot of people who are waiting. And Sprouticus, he's unmuted, just for the record. We'll go to Samantha,
no.
Sprout, Wordy, Sevatar. Right?
Okay, so I
So,
just wanted to.
Samantha. I said Samantha. Samantha, Sprout.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Sorry.
No problem.
You're good. My
It's
bad. My
Sproutacus.
bad.
By the way, Adam,
Wait
I
your
might have-
turn. At ease, okay? Wait your turn. No, I completely agree with B-More here. And through numerous conversations, and this has been like a 9-month conversation between me and B-More on, he knows I'm an advocate for red flag laws, which is why I voted for Daddy Dan Crenshaw. But like I'm an advocate for red flag laws, and it took me and B-More 9 months. We're still not even done with the conversation. But I do believe that red flag laws need to be put into place. I do believe that these protective measures for women need to be put into place. I would love the fact that like we could just like make men not be fucking assholes overnight, but it's not going to happen. So as of right now, protective measures are the best option we have, along with also teaching. I'm not going to say re-education camps, but I mean, but like this is things that take time. Now, proactive and protective measures are something we can implement right now. It is something that, easily funded, easily implemented. Every city can have one. We can move people to other cities. I've had examples of violence. My ex-wife, here's Samantha lore for you. I married a stripper when I was in the Army. She had a meth problem. She pulled a gun on me. That was the first example of like hardcore domestic violence. I said, fuck this, yeet, got on my motorcycle, left to California. Okay, I'm not going to say, oh, it's easy to leave, but like a gun in my face made it pretty clear that I didn't want to be around this bitch no more. But protective measures are good. I went to California. I don't even know where this bitch is. I don't fucking care. I'm not near her. I'm safe from her. Protective measures are good. We need to implement them. Red flag laws are good. Fuck, we need to implement them. Sensible gun control and, going through a vetting process to own a firearm. Good. Taking them all away, stupid. And everybody who fucking advocates for taking away guns or banning guns because they look scary or have 2 or more features of whatever are just people I think dodged a few too many coat hangers in their early years.
Samantha, that's pretty masturbatory to me because, like, so far the only reason people say that we can't do like banning all guns because we can't get
I
it passed
don't care
literally
about a
right
Canadian
now.
take on American gun problem.
Come on,
like,
come on,
get the
come on,
fuck
come
out
on,
of
come on,
here.
come on. We can.
I don't care.
Okay, everyone, come on. Let's stop with that, right? Like, Ninetales is of course absolutely welcome here. We have a lot of international individuals. They're welcome to comment on these things. We comment about other countries all the time here in the States, so we can let our Canadian friends.
No,
comment
she's welcome
on
to.
this.
You're absolutely
Samantha's
right.
an
I
old
just
meme
don't care.
anyways.
No.
Samantha's an old meme anyways. I'm fine with it.
Okay, all right. So let's move on to Sprout, Wordy, Savitar.
Okay, first off, I love how Nacho is still balancing that shotgun in his head. But to second off, I was gonna say something and head out and let someone else jump in. Before I was muted. For 10 minutes, but I'm back. So I believe I was talking to you, Jackalope, before I was muted, and I wanted to respond to it. So you were saying something along the lines of the first time the woman may be able to confront her abuser may work out well. Is that correct?
Yeah, like, I mean, like, even if you grant that, like, one interaction with your abuser goes well, and you can attribute all of that to the gun, that isn't necessarily a, like, thing that is going to keep you secure in the ongoing future.
Okay, so
especially if that doesn't end, like, if it doesn't end with you, like, killing your abuser or, like, then going to the police and, like, I don't know, like, getting protection from them or something, like, your abuser can keep coming after you. So
okay,
so it's not like it culminates in one dramatic event and then stops.
Okay, so with that being said, I would like to say yes, we should give women more time. I mean, not more time, more ways to get out of that situation. We should push towards that persistently. That women do not need to stay in relationships where they're being abused. No one needs to stay in a relationship where they're being abused. It seems absolutely asinine that anyone would suggest that anyone should stay in an abusive relationship. So that with that, and then if you encounter your abuser again, considering that probably is going to be a protection order against them, you can probably use your gun and have the one good that we were talking about, the one good interaction. To move on, before I leave here, Ninetales brought up a hypothetical, and it is purely a hypothetical, that when you shoot someone and kill someone, that you go to jail. You don't go to jail, you don't get booked, you go to a police holding, and the police are going to talk to you and investigate the crime. You don't get booked, you don't go to jail, you're not charged with the crime. That's not how this works, that's not how it's ever worked.
If I could respond to that real fast, yeah, it's not really that much of a hypothetical for a trans woman because we don't get believed when we say we defend ourselves. We hardly get believed when we say we were assaulted by a cis person. So I'm just gonna say right now, like, expecting things to go smoothly because you have so much faith in the justice system isn't like a good plan.
It's not faith. You're bringing up valid like systemic issues, right? And I'm not gonna use those systemic issues as a justification to ban guns. I would use those what you brought up for reasons to police reform or dealing with our societal issue of treating women like shit.
And if we do both, then me as a trans person is less in danger of a gun being held at my head.
Well, I think we've already vocalized how we're not going to ban guns.
No, you have, but you've also moved the goalpost to whatever we can do right now because that's the only way you can actually affirm that.
No.
So
yeah, it is.
Well,
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, clear to you, but you're also incredibly biased in favor of a killing toy.
Oh, they're not toys, by the way. Guns are very serious. They take lives in no way, shape, or form.
People are bouncing them on their heads.
That doesn't mean they're loaded. Like for example,
when they're unloaded, they're useless.
Yeah, before I don't even know how to say your damn name.
So it's not a toy.
Before Spartacus got on, I made sure
unloaded.
I made sure he cleared his gun before he got on this panel. I told him, show me the damn chamber. He did. Like, don't worry, we got this.
Okay, so can I ask though? Can I just ask? Let me ask. Do people not shoot
no
animals?
magazine, no round.
Do people not shoot animals for sport? Yes or no?
Some people
they totally
shoot
should.
animal for food,
And
but
so,
I shoot
and
paper
so
targets.
at that point, it's kind of like an adult toy, isn't it?
No,
Oh,
do
no,
trade.
it's
Shoot
Okay,
animals
okay.
for food.
So,
It's a
so
You just
tool.
don't want to admit that it is at that point.
It's a tool.
Hunting is
okay.
a thing.
Okay.
I hope you realize that.
Unfortunately, it's a toy that
okay.
is guaranteed by the Second Amendment.
Let's.
I mean,
okay.
I
don't
literally
care
just
about
squished
that.
a
Oh my
bug with
God.
one
I
of
know
them,
you
so
don't.
there's
So
that.
great,
I-
great. Spartacus, I give you the point. Fuck.
I appreciate you having me on, Prime. I'm gonna
Okay.
head out.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good one. Our current.
I just
stream
want to
queen.
point out this is
Oh my
important. I
God.
just used my gun to squish a bug on my desk,
Mm.
and I didn't have to shoot it. So therefore, it is definitely a tool.
Okay.
You mean you used it
When
for
they design
murder?
guns, do they design guns to be maximum bug killing tools or maximum human killing tools?
Well, the Beretta is pretty much you can use it to hammer in tent stakes. I've done it. It's a fucking tool of no other. It's also a piece of shit.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, they don't design it with the utility in mind of killing bugs. Just shut up.
It's a multi-tool.
Nobody designed 22 long rifle to kill people, and also the 50 cal wasn't even invented to kill people. It's to shoot engine blocks and stop them. The hell? No, not every gun was designed to murder people or be
Doesn't mean it
efficient at
can't.
it. No, and a hammer can
You
also.
can
I don't want to
murder-
go that
yeah,
route.
you can murder anyone with
Like,
No,
anything.
but like
hell?
that's the thing. But that's
Like,
the thing. Just
literally,
because something was
a fi-
designed to do, just
50
because something was
BMG
designed to shoot engine blocks, doesn't mean
Check-
that
check
like it
this
doesn't
out.
also have like lethal capacity. And you're
If 50
pretending like that's a feasible
if 50
utility.
My
when,
BMG
car was
maybe
designed to
that was-
drive, but
maybe
has
that was
lethal
feasible-
capacity.
Maybe
If
that was
50 BMG
feasible
was
when you had
designed to
runaway
kill
steam
people, then
engines.
so was a hammer. Okay.
That was probably feasible to
Like-
have guns for that when you had runaway steam engines, but now guns are made for killing.
There's
So shut up.
anti-personnel weapons and there's anti-armor and anti-vehicle weapons specifically
Oh.
for that like purpose.
Okay, great.
And
We
now
Did
got-
that not
people-
kill the people who they fired at?
We gotta let people win.
So-
we
so
gotta
can cars,
let,
hammers, screwdrivers, and pencils.
ooh, please, thank you. All right, we gotta let people in who've been waiting for a long time. Also, I want to say that Maddie needs to be my spirit animal. All right, moving on. Let's go to Wordy and Savitar. I've been waiting very
Can I
patiently.
say one thing? A joke I wanted to say when we were talking about murder, or like designed to murder. I'm like, you know what? I'm designed to murder, pussy.
When,
Hey, we need to
thank you.
ban Maddie. We need to ban fully automatic Maddies. We can't. This world can't take them. It's too much.
It's too much
Too
raw
fucking
Maddie.
much.
All right.
Maddie
Alright.
with a Maddie with 2 or more features. Does she
Alright,
have a
everybody,
pistol grip?
shut up.
Does she have a
It's my turn.
detachable magazine?
Oh man.
Universal background checks right now.
Face.
Oh, she's got an iron
I got a
wrist.
bump stock. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I gotta stop.
Oh boy. Oh man. She is amazing.
Maddie!
So sorry.
Maddie!
I'm not sorry.
I
Oh,
love
shit.
you so much.
I gotta stop before I dig a hole.
Diggy hole.
Okay, great.
Okay, so while I was listening to everybody fight at each other and just casually balancing shit on my head, one, I feel like if you make the argument if we just ban outright guns, I a fierce advocate of go touch some fucking grass.
Go touch it.
So the whole thing is like, right, the whole relationship here is, if you look at gun violence, the problem comes is there's also the relationship between the citizens and the police, right? We get cucked into this idea that the cops are on our side when in reality they're not. And you look at how many police kill people like every single year, and the reality is like they kill people and they get away with it a fucking lot. And if you want to talk about gun violence, if you take away guns, who's going to have the guns at the end of the day? The fucking cops. So like, cops are going to keep killing people, and you want to ask like who really needs to have the guns taken away? It's cops, because they're just fucking killing people over and over, and they get away with it. They don't get tried. We only have like 35 convicted cops within like the last few decades. So like, Jesus Christ.
Only cops should have guns.
No, definitely not. I don't want cops to have guns either.
Let's go to this.
Bjorn, fuck you.
Wait. That's a good point. That's a good point. If you don't, cops ban cops from having guns first, and then maybe I'll consider. Maybe.
Yeah, no. Actually, I'm totally in favor of that. I agree that we should address the systemic and institutionalized ownership of guns, so that way people feel safer giving them up to the system. I'm actually okay
Yes,
with that.
I want the only people
order
that
of
own
offense.
guns to be fucking criminals that got them fucking criminally, because law-abiding citizens don't actually fucking exist. Or I meant law-abiding criminals. Law-abiding citizens exist, but law-abiding criminals don't. So like, yeah, if we take guns away from cops and fucking normal people, the only people that gonna have them at that point in time are the people that get them illegally and with like ill intent to use them.
Samantha,
Mind
look.
you, this isn't synonymous to preventing access to guns to cops. I just don't want them to have access to guns until there's a situation that has clearly warranted it and by the law.
We have to go to Sevatar and then Jack, the Wolf and Wing patiently. Oh, and then Agent Tennant.
I mean, I
have anything to say.
While I'm for like cop or police reform within the United States greatly, I also am someone who believes that the state should be the one to have the monopoly on violence because that's what's beneficial for society overall. I also disagree with the idea that like we should just ban guns. That seems really dumb. Even though that guns don't provide the utility I'm looking for. In fact, they provide a decent deal of negative utility. While I don't believe guns should be a right within the United States, I do believe they should be a privilege, very much similar to driving.
Yeah, so I think like if you really do want an action that will reduce gun violence 1-to-1, getting rid of guns will do it because you literally can't shoot someone without a gun. If you can still be brought to the point of shooting somebody if you get all the help and access you need for whatever reasons. I think that it's like, just doing those things still negates like some of the more severe or individual reasons people use guns. So for me, as somebody who just like as an activist, not just a politician, an activist who actually wants to see gun violence go down, I want to use both the thing that has a 1-to-1 ratio of less guns and less gun violence, but also the things that deal with the background issues that exacerbate gun violence.
Let's go. Do you have anything else to say, Sevatar? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with her mostly. I just don't believe that we should get rid of guns for everybody. I do believe citizens should be allowed to own guns, but again, it should be a privilege, not a right.
Let's go to Jack, Agent, Nacho, and then Nathan.
So, like, one of the things that I advocate here for realistic reforms that could possibly get us to a better world that has better outcomes for people in society, right? Which is why I don't like advocate for somehow mounting the political pressure necessary to repeal the Second Amendment. I think that is a work of fantasy at best. Especially when, like, right now, you can go out and buy a 3D printer for $250 if you have some basic hand tools and $100 to go to the hardware store. You can build yourself a perfectly functional, like, automatic rifle. So it like that is comparable to like a $750 one that you can buy in a store. So it's just like we're on the precipice of a complete revolution in how guns are made and distributed, and I think that any effort to actually ban them at this point entirely is just like not possible because technology has just outpaced that goal.
Quick response.
I just want to finish my thing before we get totally sidetracked. The other thing is when we're talking about like police, I'm not a fan of police. I think that we could probably abolish police and come up with a different kind of law regulating body, especially when we're talking about like domestic violence victims escaping from their abusers. There's no reason that would have to involve the police per se. And if we have like housing first initiatives where we make housing available to anyone who needs it, that makes it a lot easier to get away from, say, domestic abusers. Finally, don't trust the police when it comes to guns. 40% of police officers engage in domestic violence against their spouses. This has been reported. You can read the book Police Wife, The Secret Epidemic of Police Domestic Violence, which looks into the report that was made to Congress in the 90s, basically alleging that the investigation that they did into police officer domestic violence found that around 40% of officers engage in that violence, and then another 40% help to cover that up. So, I don't trust the police with guns, and we should probably have a different and better type of policing system that doesn't rely on police, especially if we have policies that reduce the number of guns in circulation.
May I give a quick response?
Go for it.
So yeah, like I think I love that you point out the Second Amendment. That is going to be a huge hurdle policy-wise. And to be fair, when I'm saying about banning guns, I'm talking about what is ideal from an anti-gun activist standpoint, not necessarily what's feasible. When we're talking about what's feasible, though, I think gun popularity is going to drop with the amount of mass shootings that are happening. So I think that feasibility will not always be locked in place, and at some point it may become more feasible to actually get rid of that over time. As far as printing 3D guns go, this isn't just like you buy a 3D printer and the materials and you print a 3D gun thing. It takes a lot of skill to properly 3D print something to the degree that it comes out fine. You don't just take a CAD file and it works on any 3D printer all the same. You have to know your 3D printer, you have to have experience with it, and you have to like actually know what it can and can't structurally do. Also, this is like a very specific thing that you need specific heads, a specific type of plastics for. I feel like that there is some regulatory potential there, but I don't really want to have the discussion because it is a mess. So yeah, like I think it's easier said than done to just print a 3D gun, and people have to remember that. And still, like it's infinitely harder than buying one from like a drug dealer on the street, and that becomes harder if we.
No, but that's just completely.
No, it's really not. But that.
Wait, how expensive is it to buy a gun from your drug dealer?
It's not even that. It's the
Probably.
fact that 3D printers are printing to tighter tolerances as the years pass. Like seriously, just not too long ago, we
Tolerance
couldn't
isn't
even.
the only thing you
No,
need to
no,
know
no. Look,
about,
just
though.
not too long ago, we couldn't imagine 3D printing modular
Okay,
titanium suppressors.
When
Now
structural
we
engineers
can.
make a gun, when structural engineers
Things-
make a gun, they
technology
don't just ask.
advances.
When structural engineers
advances.
make a gun, they don't just ask like, okay, how tolerant is this metal? One of the biggest things is, can we produce a gun where like the production process produces the same structure any time? A 3D printer can easily have air bubbles and stuff like that you cannot track and are entirely random and uncontrollable. So
Yeah, it's like buying a high
like
point.
again, I think you're
no.
oversimplifying things in a way that doesn't actually truly apply.
We
to
have
3D printing of
we
guns.
have companies right now from
You
6
say
Hour.
no, but I'm telling you, as somebody
look,
who
for
knows
example,
about structural engineering,
I can tell
it's
you
not just about
companies
the
who are
printing
doing
technology.
exactly what you're saying they can't do. We have first off countless auto manufacturers, but 6 Hour specifically, who are 3D printing titanium components right now, mass producing them and
and
selling
the
them like
programs-
hotcakes. So no,
and the
check this
programs
out.
for
So
that-
that level of technology that's only available to corporations or companies eventually trickle out to consumers, because that's how things work. Just like in the past, when only person who can afford more than 1 gigabyte on the damn computer was IBM, now we have fucking iPod shuffles with more than a gig on them. This is how technology works. But you keep speaking about how technology exists at this current second. In my opinion, the way
I can speak
the
towards
way
the
that I
future of
perceived
things.
Riverboat's
I can
Jack's
speak towards the
statement
future of
was
things, Beatboard, so let me do that
that
for a second.
technology
Just
is
drop it.
advancing.
Sorry, let him finish. Be more.
Is that technology is advancing,
Not
that we're
gonna
going to reach a golden age of 3D printing technology. I don't want to be stuck in the now. The same technology 6 Hours using to 3D print titanium components, modular titanium components to amazing specifications. Eventually, that's going to be available. Yeah, check. Do I need something?
Yeah, you're overemphasizing this because first of all,
Overemphasizing what? We have auto manufacturers 3D printing
okay,
components.
just because we have increasing amount of printing capabilities doesn't mean it's going to increase infinitely. Second of all, the printing capabilities aren't
infinite?
the printing capabilities aren't the only thing that determine the like what you need to make a gun. First of all, like properly working printed gun recipes just aren't really a thing, and they don't last very long on the internet either, for good reason, because if you make that, you're actually quite liable for like people who use it and stuff like
We've
that.
already had the court rulings in America. That's not true.
Secondly, the only way to safely do it is to know yourself if it's been printed properly and if the design is structurally sound. And I think like nobody is going to appreciate having a gun that could explode in their hand when they're trying to use it to defend themselves. So I think the actual feasibility
your idea of 3D
of
printing
a
off of 10-year-old technology.
Yeah, it's not just plastics anymore. We do it in
I'm not
titanium
saying
and all
it
you
is.
need.
Oh my God.
There was literally hold on.
Think as
There
soon
was
as you
just a
start using
company.
metal,
There was
everything's
just a
fine.
company.
That-
There was
that-
just a
that- this is
company.
not-
There
this
was
is
just a
not
company.
engineering. Let me finish.
There was
please.
just a company,
Let me
B-More,
finish.
right? That was rated.
Oh my God!
Like you guys seem to think like structural engineering is all about materials and stuff like that. No, like you actually have to do the design, and then at the production point, you want to make sure you have a consistent product. Which I'm sorry, 3D printers won't do. 3D printers aren't going.
You
to
don't have to
detect bubbles.
design.
Look, 3D
What do you
printers
mean
are
you
getting
don't
to that
have to
point.
design?
There's
Like yes, you
websites
do.
dedicated. There's websites dedicated to people that have designed this stuff that you can print,
And all of those
they've
guns
all
have
been
been
tested.
shown to,
Hold on.
like, all those guns have been shown to like fuck up tons of times.
No, you're basing your ideas off of old
No.
technology. Look up the FGC-9.
Yes,
It's a
you're
new
way out of
semi-automatic
whack.
rifle that is capable of firing thousands of rounds without breaking. So
There was
Okay,
there was a company
again,
just
we're
rated.
assuming that there's just going to be like open source availability to these things.
Yes,
The
yes,
internet is
wait,
actually
there are.
the internet is
No,
actually
already
well
is.
regulated.
Real quick.
Believe it or not,
Real
believe it or
quick,
not,
no-
the internet is actually well regulated. Things like child porn don't last very long because when it pops up,
These
if it
files
pops
are not
up in a,
illegal.
if it pops up in a
They're not
public
illegal.
way,
These files are
if
not
it pops-
illegal.
let me
The New
finish, let me finish.
Jersey District
Let me
Attorney
finish.
Let
Let me
me
finish. Holy
wait.
shit.
Like this point's
If
bullshit.
child porn
Like,
comes up in a public way, we can get remove it. The same goes for these recipes. You make it
No.
harder.
Not
and
illegal.
Let me finish. You make it harder and
It's a
harder
dumb
to
point.
access
It's
instead
bad.
of easier. That's the point.
it's not much of a point. And we are like the New Jersey District Attorney tried to take a 3D gun manufacturer in Texas to court, saying that their blueprints landed in their state, and even they tried and they still failed. No, these.
Okay, well, I'm against those laws. I'm against
seriously
whatever
said
legal
It was
precedents.
a freedom of speech case. Like they're
Okay,
allowed
so we
to
passed a law.
distribute
We
these 3D
passed a
printed
law then that
files.
says that they are liable, plain and simple. We don't leave it up to court
That goes
opinion.
against freedom of
It's a
speech.
fucking
I
law.
just want to point
It-
out.
I don't
it
give a
literally
fuck
wasn't
about
like-
your freedom of
we have
speech. Go
pirate-
fucking
we have
take it and shove it up
piracy
your ass.
websites.
Go and
piracy
go
websites
Canadian
that
law.
Yeah,
leaking
Okay,
movies out into the
great.
world.
What a
Wonderful.
fucking Canadian! Holy shit!
Honestly, if your freedom of
Just
speech
as
is going to be a
effective.
danger to me, then fuck it.
Okay.
See, then cope
Wait,
more.
whoa. Are you wait. So basically what you're telling me
That
so
sounds fucking
far,
cringe.
so Ninetales, so what you're telling me so far is basically you allow the state to basically just like determine what people's rights are. So like the problem comes like this is a bit of the issue I have with
I
Sevatar
didn't
here.
say that. No.
So no, but if you want to take away people's freedom of speech, like you say like fuck it. So that's what you just said. So the problem comes
No, I'm
with-
saying that I'm not a
Hey.
free speech absolutist like a moron.
Who said that?
Who
Wait,
say anything
what?
about absolutism?
Yeah,
That's
the
what I'm saying.
fuck?
Then it's a
What?
bullshit argument because the
What?
point is that it's dangerous, and so your free speech doesn't fucking matter. Stop thinking about yourself.
It's a file. The file's not what's dangerous,
What?
jackass.
Okay.
The file.
Then
That's
I
why the
don't
file can't be
fucking
illegal.
care.
And
We
on
don't
your
have free speech
dumb
laws that
take.
support-
Hold on your dumb take about the whole like with more mass shootings going on, gun ownership's going to go down. Guess what? The more mass shootings are, gun ownership has been going up. You fucking dumbass.
And guess what?
Exactly.
Child porn isn't actually dangerous. It's the act that was
Yes,
done.
it
to
is. What the
commit
fuck
it.
are you on
Child
about?
porn
Did you
is
just
very
say-
illegal.
Let
Very
me
dangerous
finish.
and very
Wow.
illegal.
These material is
wrong
not
with
to be
you?
Pirate
let me finish,
movies.
Let me finish.
There's
I
no
really need to
such
finish.
thing as
I
movie
really need to
Oh
respond
boy,
to that
boy,
because
I
this
think
doesn't
she.
make sense.
Oh, shut up.
Should I finish, please?
I have it. So I think Ninetales needs the space to explain that statement. I think it's probably very important that Ninetales gets
I
a
think
chance
that
to
statement
explain.
was
Yeah,
TOS.
so like
considering, let her finish it, please. You go ahead.
Considering that child porn isn't the thing that's actually harming the child, we clearly don't need the material to be what's harmful to set a precedent for what we do and don't ban.
Guys, the revenge porn that happens to women and men all the time doesn't actually hurt them.
Yeah, no, the actual file itself doesn't. You're right.
Okay.
What?
I think she's saying.
file,
No,
the video, the porn itself is the file.
If Samantha's argument
you
is
just
that
made
the
the
harm
point.
doesn't come from the file itself, so we can't ban it, I'm just
That was
pointing
the
out that's
Supreme
complete
Court's
nonsense.
argument. That was the Supreme Court's argument.
Okay.
I would
I don't-
actually
well, then
argue
they're
child porn
stupid.
within
Get
itself.
shit
is
on.
harm.
Get shit on.
No.
So I
Shit
would
on.
actually.
Then eat shit,
Get
Supreme
shit
Court.
on. Get shit
Then
on.
Supreme
I
Court
would.
can eat shit.
Oh, okay. So I
Okay.
would actually make the argument that child porn within itself does actually cause harm.
Boy.
Like not only does. Not
Okay,
only
well, you're
does-
talking about distal effects.
I'm
Sam
blind.
was saying that there are no proximal harm from the child porn, or sorry,
Boy.
from the guns, and
You're
we
the one who
we
brought up
never need
child
that.
porn.
We never need that to get to ban material.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. So let's move on from child porn. Hooray! Okay.
Yay! Less emotional ejaculate from Ninetales, please.
Okay. All right.
You mean the thing
Oh,
that
boy.
actually proved that you're
So
full of shit?
We're
Cool.
moving. Whoop.
Stephen Cope.
Whoop. Stop. Right now. Thank you. Agent 10, Nacho, Nathan, Ty, Wordy, you want to jump in? Okay. Not sure if anyone else has their hand up, but all right. Okay.
Cool.
Agent.
Yeah. So, nice meeting Ninetales. But to get off of that, you said earlier that mass shootings gone up, which means gun popularity's gone down. Where did you pull that out your ass from? Like, where? Gun popularity's gone up.
You
Gun
think
sales
that
have gone up.
increases the popularity of guns?
Gun sales have been on record highs. for
They've
months and
always
months.
been going up. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything.
So how is popularity going down?
No, I'm
If more
saying
people
that
are
the
buying
ability
guns, how
to
are popular-
fearmonger. I'm saying that the ability to fearmonger
That's
against
not what you
ownership
said.
will become easier. So the
That's not
chances
what you
that
said.
yes, it is. And so I said that
No, it's not.
that it is. Yes, it is. I said it. So it is viable in the future. You can even ask Jack that it is viable in the future that it could go down.
That's not what you said. That's a lot of
That
caveats.
is
well, then you're
literally not what you
explaining it.
said.
Fuck yourself.
You said
You
oh,
said
wow,
it. It's
okay.
literally
Wait,
not a
what?
straw man. You
What the
fucking said
fuck?
it. Your fucking
said mass
words came
shootings
out
are
of
up,
your
popularity's
dumbass
going
mouth.
down.
Listen, you can go back in the VOD later and hear how fucking stupid you are.
Look who's
I'm the
talking.
stupid one.
Sick,
Okay,
dude.
holy
Okay,
shit.
mouth breather. Jesus Christ.
meme.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well.
Holy shit.
So, okay, we're gonna move on. We'll let Agent finish his point. Hey, but just quickly.
Oh no, I'm done. I don't need more.
Okay, well then quickly to my audience. Hey, if you're just coming into this place, right? You should follow this channel. This craziness you just experienced. Yeah, we do it all the time, right? 6 days a week we talk about random stuff, and then we get this. So yes, if you have not done so yet, hit the follow button, hit the notification bell, so you know I'm going live. I do it 6 days a week. Don't want to miss out on any of the content. All right.
I'm not taking this gun off my
usually-
head, and I'm not leaving until you sub to Prime.
I agree. Prime, can I do something? Who here said that they disagree with me, and what is their reason for disagreeing with me?
That was me, Wordy. I just had a small disagreement we can go over later.
Oh, okay. Yeah, whatever.
Okay, sure. Let's go to Nacho, Nathan, Ty, and then Wordy. And Samantha.
So 1-to-1 ratio. A better solution, I think, would be to provide mental health access to doctors, et cetera, et cetera. So having like a public option to start at least would probably be a good place to start. A lot of these people, we have to figure out why people are reaching critical mass, why they're even getting to this point. Because I mean, we just saw over the weekend there was like a guy who took his pickup truck and like ran it into a bike race or something like that. He didn't need a gun. He did a lot of damage. We have to figure out why people are getting to that place and try to give them support. To the guns, even if we did away with like 3D printing, like there's still people selling guns illegally on the black market. So if you were just going to do like a gun ban or a gun buyback, you're only going to be helping like, citizens who are going to follow the law. So the black market's never going to go away. The dark web's never going to go away. So even if you took away the files to print guns, they're still going to exist on like the dark web. So that's another thing. And there's just too much money in the production of guns and the sale of guns. That's just too big of a market. I don't think that's ever going to succeed. I think a big part of the issue when it comes down to women specifically is women having somewhere to go, which is why I donate to a local organization called Steps to Hope, and they provide shelter and education to domestic abuse victims. They allow you to bring your kids there, et cetera, et cetera. That's like one of the biggest parts, is that a lot of women feel like they have nowhere else to go. They have nowhere to go, like no one to run to. Some people don't have family, like extended family. So that would be a big first step, is to, I don't know, maybe subsidizing some of those charities through the government. So
hey,
that's pretty much it.
Nacho, and to everyone else on the panel, if you have resources to help with like abuse victims like that, if you have like a website or a number or something, like put it in my Twitch chat for people in case anyone needs it out there, so
right,
just in general, yeah, let's let people have access to these resources. If you know them, then let's share them, please. All right, thank you. All right, so let's go to Nathan, Ty, Wordy, and Samantha.
Wow. Where to begin? First, I don't believe in banning all guns. I don't think it's feasible, and I don't think it would be the best option. And I don't think it would end gun violence either, at least not in the U.S. But I mean, I support the popular regulations pushed by the majority of people. So, expanding background checks, preventing sale to people where their healthcare providers flag them as mentally unstable, stopping people on federal watch list from getting them, etc., etc., etc. There's a lot of popular restrictions and regulations that I don't know why they're. Well, I don't think that they. I'm surprised that it's not being done, but I'm also not surprised because we know the real problem is corruption. But I mean, yeah, there's very popular policies to push. This is a pretty basic take. There's very popular policies to push to limit gun violence and gun use and gun ownership. Um, and we should be pushing that a lot. Now, wait, real quick. This is what I thought of earlier during that like 3D gun discussion. There's 70% support for the creation of a national database for guns. So I think that 3D guns might come in between that. And if that's the case, then the process of the creation of 3D guns maybe should have the regulatory hand of the government ready to interfere. And I think that's doable.
Can I quickly respond to the straw man that was made at the beginning? So it'll be quick. Nobody who's talking about banning guns is saying it'll completely reduce gun violence or get rid of all guns.
Yeah.
You're just talking about reducing the numbers and seeing a correlation.
Yeah, I didn't mean to straw man you there. The dog pile is kind of painful to watch, so I didn't mean to do that. I mean, I just don't think it would be effective. Like a ban, like let's say we remove the Second Amendment. I think that'll scare people to the point where they're gonna, buy a bunch of guns and they're gonna have a significant increase in the black market. But I mean, I just push
actually
popular
hard to
policies.
control what people will do. I'll totally submit to that point.
Yep. And that's all I got to say for now. I'll think of something later, but push popular policies and regulate 3D printed guns.
Okay. Be more. I got you down the list. But oh boy. So I know it seems like it's our friend Ninetales against the world here. But for
good reason. I agreed with her I agreed with her on a lot of points.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
I mean, if I had a magic wand,
get rid of guns and replace them with pool noodles. And then
if I had like a magic wand, I could literally disappear all the fucking guns like at the same time. Like, oh, sure, yeah, but the fact is that if they're out there, I want to have one too.
So,
want to have 3 of them.
Let's
moral and practical.
I have one on my head.
So my point is my point was simply that she does have a bit of support. That it's well known that I'm not a fan of guns. As I've told my friend Bmore here, I've vacillated back and forth on this issue more than any other, like bar none. I've been too busy managing the channel, so I haven't heard everything that Ninetales has said. But I tend to be on closer to her side of these things. So I'm just trying to give you a bit of moral support there, buddy. I'll just leave it at that.
Can I quickly respond to what Nacho said?
Quickly, very, very quickly, because we got people who've been waiting. Got to go, Ty.
Being afraid of like other people owning guns is a better argument for getting less guns, because if you're afraid of the one person who owns gun in Alaska, that isn't very rational, right? Your argument only seems rational when the guns in your country are saturated. So the best way to deal with the problem of other people owning guns is to reduce the likelihood that you're going to encounter somebody with a gun. Like here in Canada, I'm not afraid of that.
So let's go.
You're only going to stop law-abiding citizens.
Let's go to Tiberius. Just want to say something before Tiberius says anything. Tiberius is a good supporter of the community. Happy to have him around. Tiberius runs his own channel, and I just want to shout him out now, just real quick. But he runs his own chat or channel, and he has a podcast with our good friend Samantha and our friend Counterpoints. Right? They do good work. Check them out. Link us in chat. But yeah, we like Tiberius around here. We're happy you can join us. Ty.
Appreciate you having me. And yes, definitely check out the Mascot podcast featuring Samantha Banana and myself and Counterpoints. We absolutely have a great time on Sundays. When Prime is not streaming, by the way. I want to jump in on the balance of power with guns, because this is a very big ethical dilemma, I think, for a lot of people. And that is just in the mere fact of having guns, you have a 50% likelihood that whoever has that gun is going to use that on themselves. Straight out of the gate. We have to admit that. We have to contend with that as a moral and ethical dilemma. On the other side of that is that if you are a person that feels oppressed, if you are a person that feels mistreated by the institutions that are around you, is that you need the power to make those institutions respect your authority and your autonomy. The best way to do that is with firearms. However, that is an absolute risk calculus, right? Because you're basically figuring out that you're going to have to engage with an institution. There's a long whole diatribe here that most of the right wingers and myself actually believe in, is that you are increasing the calculus to the point in which is that you are deterring violence and oppression against you. Question is, one, do you believe that? And then two, is that a actual viable doctrine to getting people off your back? I'll end with that.
Okay. I think.
I would kind of like to respond to that.
Go ahead.
When it comes to international relations, I can get you the study if you want, but it was done by some political scientists, and they found out that the vast majority of like political reforms and quote unquote political revolutions, they have a far more highly likelihood of succeeding if they are primarily peaceful rather than using firearms or being violent in nature. Furthermore, when it comes to self-defense, when it comes to firearms, I posted a link in the VC chat if you want to look at it. Guns again don't produce the utility that we like to pretend that they do. They don't produce the utility of self-defense that everybody likes to say they do. They're far more likely to be used to produce negative utility, whether that be in threats or actually shooting somebody by non-law-abiding citizens or getting stolen, which is even a lot worse. That's actually where the vast majority of like illegal guns come from. They are just stolen. So my like original claim was I don't believe that owning guns should be a right. I wanted to expand upon that a little bit more. I believe, again, having a firearm should be a privilege, and you need to work very fucking hard in order to earn that privilege within a modern human society. Guns are not toys, as every single person agrees to, and you need to not only go through a background check and be proven to be mentally capable, but you need to go through a rigorous training program. You need to own other accessories, such as a gun safe or gun locks, or actually, I would just say just gun safes. Gun locks don't actually really work because, yeah, sure, you have it loaded up in the trigger guard and you've loaded up in the chamber, so you can't load and or use the firearm. That doesn't stop me from taking the firearm from your house and getting rid of the lock at my house instead, which is what usually happens as well. So again, it should probably just be a privilege rather than a right. Now, again, that's not practical modern day, but that's for future things ultimately.
I like that solution myself. Just for the record, I really like that solution. Ty, though, if you want to respond to that, if you had a response, then we'll go to Wordy, Samantha, and Bmore.
I got a little bit, and that's the whole the more peaceful revolutions study. I'm not familiar with this study, but I have to, I don't know, press X it out here a little bit. Part of this is just in the contemporary norms of what we have seen here in the modern world. We've had an ever increasing democracy that's spread across the globe. Now we can talk about that. That's starting to look like it's starting to reverse. We can talk about state-sponsored black ops that usually when you have an uprising or a popular uprising somewhere, it usually has financial backing from a state sponsor from somewhere.
Here's the article from Harvard. I'll put it in VC chat.
Appreciate it, buddy. So yeah, there's definitely levels where I am going to be a little bit criticizing of this, at least out of the get-go, but I'll definitely try to take a look at that for you, buddy.
It's the article within itself like cites the study. So it's both. It's written by the same people who did it.
Wordy, Wordy, Samantha, and Bmore. Wordy, please.
And I'll be right back.
For sure.
So normally I don't agree with Tiberius on a lot of things, but there's one very thing I do agree on is, I'm an anarchist, so like the idea is the relationship to like the government, right? And the problem comes is whenever they have sole control over like guns and all the monopoly of violence. This is like my disagreement with you, Sevatar, is like the state should have the control of the monopoly of violence. But the problem comes is when they have control of like guns and shit, and they have sole control, then it basically takes away like any ability for like people to engage in like behavior to like deal with it. Like when we look at like the 1776 revolution, not all of it was violent, but the ability to aggress and be able to form your own government is a fundamental part. And while you may not engage in like violence all the time, having that ability, like when we look at like India itself, it's not just like fucking Gandhi coming in and doing this whole peaceful thing. It is also the rebellions that came in that process and all these different components that add in. And you have to look at like all these different movements and revolutions that come. It's a component of peaceful behavior, but it's also the violent behavior itself, right? And as a whole is like whether it's like if it's worth it for like this government or leading body to like maintain control over that region. And the reality is, if it's not worth it, they're going to get the fuck out of there. And so that's the whole component of the process.
So as a social ecologist or anarchist down the social ecology vein, I definitely I think we have to keep in mind that anarchy isn't just about isn't the same as minarchy. We want to make sure that these institutions can't really abuse their power very easily and that they're justified from a political and public standpoint. And yeah, so I think that that's a really key thing to remember. And as far as like actually fighting your government goes, I think unless you're in a government without a huge military state, you're just like you're enabling them to escalate things to a set of means that are beyond your control. And if you want that, then you at least should admit that that's what you think will work. But I actually don't think it's good for a cause when millions of their people die, especially political causes, maybe like more severe causes, but especially like just a baseline political cause of freedom. When people start dying, you're just going to lose like membership.
Yeah, well, the bigger problem that comes up with it more than anything is the amount of resources both groups can wage. And so it's like, it's not just violence, right? It's not just the ability to have guns and fight and stuff. It's also the ability to control the resources, control how like they engage in that, right? It's the money, it's the economics, it's the life and the welfare of the people. So in the instance, guns are a means and an inclusion of multiple tactics.
Okay.
If that was for me, I missed. I was talking to my chat, so a non-response is not an endorsement of what you said.
Ty, do you have a quick response, and then we'll go to Samantha?
Yeah, I do. Out of the gate is that if you assume that governments have like a monopoly on power, which they largely do, is that out of the box you assume that they have the capability to basically systematically wipe out people in their entirety. The problem with this is that by logical stance is that you have an optics issue here. Is that if let's just say that the Democrats decide that Texas fucking sucks and they're going to wipe out Texas, they can't just roll in with fucking machine guns. Otherwise, they look incredibly optically bad, and their support collapses from under them. One of the wonderful things about representative democracy or liberalism or whatever you want to call this, where we have more access to information, political speech, and ideals, is that there is an incredible cost in using force against your own people. There's lines in the sand. We've had this conversation on the daily, whether it's about a certain community or another community and how police interactions work. But there's just no way you're actually going to get the tanks to roll in and not suffer severe repercussions. The last time we did this was Waco back in '93, and people still talk about it.
Okay, let's go to Samantha and then Beemore.
All right, so there's a lot I'm going to address here. So I've talked with Beemore about this, and everybody knows I'm a huge gun rights advocate and a gun advocate and a Second Amendment advocate. But yes, I'm going to agree with the gun safes thing. I've talked about this many times. I believe that upon like the approval process of purchasing a firearm, you should go through a mandatory class. Now that might seem stupid, but guess what? The most dangerous person with a gun is somebody who's not know how to fucking use it and put it away safely, store it properly. So that's part of my fucking thing. Like, if you want to buy a gun, you go through a fucking process of a mandatory class on how to use the firearm and a mandatory safety class, because you don't know if kids are going to be at your house. You don't. If you have kids, how do you properly fucking store it and everything? You know, I believe that you shouldn't be able to leave the gun shop without a fucking safe that's properly made to lock up your firearm. If it's a rifle, it's a long fucking safe. If it's a pistol, it's a short fucking safe. Doesn't matter. Or a fucking Liberty safe, like I have two of based. Background checks, Sevatar, don't account for mental health, which is why we need to come up with a standard for judging the mental capacity for firearm ownership, because a background check just checks for felonies and stuff. There's not a real, like, it's not like a real mental health check. It's like some pseudo bullshit one. We need to come up with a standard because, like, does it, should bipolar people not have firearms? Should people with PTSD not have firearms? Say a rape victim with PTSD who feels like it'd be safer to have a firearm, are we going to exclude her or him? No, that's fucking not fair. So we have to come up with a standard for judging people's mental capacity for owning a firearm.
How's that not fair?
Not just because someone has PTSD.
Maybe I'm not educated enough on PTSD.
Wait, what?
Maybe I'm clear. It's like a serious question. Like, is that not fair?
Yeah, post-traumatic stress disorder doesn't mean that somebody's made a propensity for violence.
Sure,
but it is a mental condition.
Yeah, sure, but violence is not the thing we're trying to just control for within itself. We're also trying to control for just being able to maintain the gun safety. Because again, as we all agree here,
yes. But what I'm saying is that yes, which is exactly that's where I'm going. This is why we need to come up with a fucking judging standard for the mental capacity of someone to own a firearm, be it like a hazard to themselves or others. But we have to come up with a fucking standard of judging rather than just being like, oh, somebody has a mental condition, they can't own a firearm. Because just because they have a mental condition doesn't mean just because they have a mental condition. Don't interrupt me, for fuck's sake. I'm over it.
I thought you were done.
Doesn't mean, shut the. I'm not done. I said I have a lot to address, and I'm going to address it. Oh God, you're so annoying. $10 to mute. $10 to mute Ninetales. Just remember that. But we need to come up with a standard of judging to be able to fucking be able to figure out who has the mental capacity to own a firearm based off of like their personal things, because some mental conditions can affect some people one way and other people another way. So it's not fair to just blanket a whole term saying that if you have this condition, you can't own a firearm, because that doesn't affect everybody. And also, I believe in a yearly licensing and rechecks research with mandatory range time, because like I said, the most dangerous with a person with a firearm is somebody who's not trained to use it or doesn't know how to use it.
Also,
There, now you can fucking butt in.
I really want to
Yeah,
rebut this
yeah,
a little
I was
bit.
going to. So about the PTSD thing, it probably is something we could categorize as a dangerous mental health condition to own a gun with, because first of all, people's ability to use reasoning in stressful situations, anybody with PTSD, regardless of what happened, goes down. So we want people to be able to use their reasoning skills in high stress situations. Secondly, when we look at military vets, I would imagine that their form of PTSD is much more reliable on saying that it's a threat than others. So I just want to point out that I know that you're resistant to this, but I do think that not giving people with PTSD guns would help with the problem a large bit.
Okay. I think that's a total cunt take. So are you just saying that all military veterans with PTSD are a fucking violent threat?
No, did I even use the word violence, or are you unable to listen? I said their ability to use.
I asked you a question. I didn't put words in your mouth. I didn't ask you a question. I asked you a question. I asked you a question. I didn't put words in your mouth. Just answer the question, cuck.
Well, you did. But here's the answer: is that they can no longer use their prefrontal cortex as well in high stress situations. It's a well-known fact. I don't have the paper archive, so I'll have to look it up.
And is that for every person? Is that a 100%
actually,
statistic?
PTSD affects regulation of the prefrontal cortex in high stress
Is that
situations.
in 100% of people?
It's part of the pathology.
Citation fucking needed.
Okay, just give me.
So let's go to.
So any
we'll go to B more, then Vines, and then Jack, then Ty. Okay.
I think Sam realized she's talking to somebody who studies neurobiology.
And at the same time, you don't understand that only 3% of violent crimes are committed by the mentally ill. And then in no way, shape, or form do I want to weaponize mental health. Like, come on. Like, suicide's a big issue, right?
Oh, she does.
But, like, according to the American Psychological Association, only 3%. It's like, come on. It's not that big. Like, what the hell? Like, I don't want to weaponize mental
violent crimes. It's not only about violent crimes, though. It's also about like maintaining like the firearm and keeping the firearm out of reach of other people who should not have the firearm. Because the vast majority of gun crimes are done by stolen firearms. And
yeah, I know,
again,
but here's the connection, though. This
Okay,
is my time. The connection here, though, is why are we going to say like mentally ill people disproportionately like hand out guns to other people? Like, there's no connection here. There's no data on that. The data we do have is that only 3% of violent crimes are committed by the mentally ill individuals. So I don't want to weaponize their illness, right? Samantha and I had long conversation on this. I agree with the safe point. I think the only concession I gave is that I believe that the safe should be subsidized, right? Like, so we should.
No, we agreed on that.
We agreed on that, right?
You shouldn't have to pay for the safe. Like, it's
have to pay
part
for
of
the
the.
safe.
It's part of. You have to pay for the class and training regardless, and that's even if you go get your CCW, you have to pay for that class. This is part of that. They can include that in the price of the class.
My issue is I don't want to create another NFA situation where the rich people get to have all the nice things and the poor people are just fucked. So we need a federal jobs program anyway. We can just like hire a whole bunch of Americans and make beautiful gun safes. And also, if you don't want a gun but you still want a safe, I think you should get one. Also, you can keep your documents in it. They're fire resistant, so if your property ever burns, you don't lose your Social Security and other important things. But I don't want to weaponize mental illness. That's
use code MASKOFF10 for 10% off of a Liberty safe. By the way, just saying.
Sam, you asked me for a source. Would you like it?
Post it in chat.
Yeah, it's in VC, and so what it says is that the brain's cognitive resources after they are not in this stressful situation, but after they have PTSD, are allocated towards threat detection and perceiving innocuous signals.
But does this give a statistic where it says this is occurring in 100% of every motherfucker who has PTSD?
It's a contemporary cognitive model.
The American
PTSD,
Psychological Association, mental illness is not usually linked to
PTSD.
crime research finds. I'm going to post it in chat since we're so stuck on weaponizing people's
Oh my God,
illnesses
let me
to
finish.
disarm
Like,
them.
first of all, I'm not talking about weaponizing mental health. I'm talking about finding which disorders actually pose a bigger threat when people own a gun. And that's why I'm pointing out that this isn't about whether or not it's 100% of people. It's the cognitive model of PTSD. It's the cognitive model. If you can't accept that, then you're just rejecting.
Which is why I'm saying it's a case by case basis.
If you can't
Case
accept
by
that, then
case basis. I'm not demonizing people with mental health because I'm not a fucking dickhead.
Yeah, when something is a cognitive model,
Okay.
when something is a cognitive model, when something is a cognitive model of a certain disorder, that means that you don't. It's no longer a case by case basis. It is the basis of that mental health disorder. And if you
mental
can't
health
accept
people, blocking people with mental health issues from being able to defend themselves. Good job, lib shit.
And if you can't accept that, you're just in denial of what PTSD
Good job, lib
is.
shit.
You're
Cock
just in
blocking,
denial.
cock
This is
blocking
so.
people with mental health issues
You're just
from owning a firearm. Good job, asshole.
You're afraid of a fucking answers to what PTSD is. Like, this is what it does, and this is a very good reason.
Liberal.
This is a perfectly
Typical
fine reason.
Okay, we gotta move on.
Sam,
We gotta move on.
Sam, you asked for a source, and now you're just throwing a tantrum.
Move on. Great.
It
Thank
doesn't
you.
prove what I asked for.
Great. So,
yes, it does.
Okay.
Holy shit.
So, stop, everyone. Thank you. All right.
Your cognitive dissonance is strong.
This is just an example of the high-minded debate that you come for and you get here at PrimeCayes. All right. So moving on, we gotta go to Fines. Has been waiting. Jack, Ty, Wordy.
So like, nobody wants guns. Like, guns shouldn't have to be a necessity, but we live in a world where
I want guns. What the heck are you on about?
I love mine.
In an ideal world, we shouldn't have guns. You know what I'm saying?
In
Like,
whose ideal world?
That does not apply to the real world. That does not apply to the real
In
world.
my
at all.
ideal world, everyone would be able to have a firearm because they all be mentally competent enough to have one.
Fucking nerd.
Listen.
Guns.
The ideal world is not a world where people inflict violence on other people. But we live in a shitty world. We live in a real world where people hurt other people. And I would rather workers and people who are in an economically and politically disadvantaged position to be able to defend themselves against other people who consolidate power and who exert influence on the oppressed. And so I think that guns can be a tool used by the working class and by politically oppressed minorities to defend their communities against fascism. That's all I have to say.
Okay, great. We'll go to then Jack.
I've got to go.
Okay.
I love you guys. You're all beautiful people.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye, Nacho.
All right, thanks so much. And okay. All right. Just first of all, we got a mute coming in, and God damn it, Samantha. Ninetales. You know the deal. All right, you know the drill. 10 minutes. Okay. But all right.
Just so you know, I unmuted her just so I can mute her myself.
Okay. Oh wow.
He's committed to the cause.
Okay. All right. So we'll go to Jack, then Ty, then Morty, please.
Okay, so to kind of back up what we're talking about when it comes to like mental illness and violence. The research that we have on mental illness as it relates to violence really indicates that it's less so that the mental illness that causes people to be violent, and more so that if you look at actually if you look at like mentally ill people who have committed violence and look at where they're discharged and like where they've lived, their environment, it turns out that their environment, the people in the neighborhood that they live in, are equally as likely to commit crime whether or not they have mental illness issues. And that means that the biggest issues that would propel someone with a mental illness to commit crimes are the same issues that would propel any other person to try and commit crimes, namely poverty. It's the big one. It's the big one right there. And when we look at like more serious acts of violence, not just like petty theft or like muggings or whatever, it turns out that the vast minority of people are mentally ill. In fact, if we're looking at like mass shooters, only 8% of mass shooters are mentally ill. The rest are all mentally competent. When we look at mass murders that don't involve firearms, the rate goes up to 18% for mentally ill people. But again, still, vast majority of people who are committing mass murder without a gun, overwhelmingly mentally competent. I just don't know if this is an excuse to like ban mentally ill people from having firearms. But I would be interested to ask like what people would think about like suicide rates, like that tends to go hand in hand. Like more lethal methods of suicide tend to lead to mentally ill people committing suicide more often. Is that an okay trade-off? If they're allowed, like mentally ill people are allowed to have guns. I'm interested in what other people on the panel have to say about that. And yeah.
Okay.
So what are we defining as mentally ill?
So serious mental illness is what I'm talking about when I say mentally ill. So that includes under the definitions
PTSD.
Under the definitions here, things like major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and schizoaffective disorder. These are the types of disorders we're talking about.
Okay.
Let's go to Ty, is waiting very patiently, then Marty.
And
Jack.
oh, sorry.
ahead.
If anyone wants to look at what I was referencing and talking about, I put it in the VC chat.
Okay, please, thank you. Ty.
I want to thank Jack for dropping that sexy intelligence. It's always appreciated. And actually, you prompted what I was going to say. So I'll actually start with note 2 first. I actually believe in red flag laws. However, many people in this platform do know me after a while, and I have bipolar disorder. And under a lot of these mental red flag laws is that I would actually be barred from that. I own a Beretta 92 FS. The question is, do you trust me? Because some of you have seen where I am, very accommodating and very empathetic to people and their causes. And some people see me where I'm on the other side of that bipolar disorder. And I'm like, you're a leftist, order 66, get out of my damn server. So there's definitely a question on like where my competency lies in that. And I'm not going to say that's a bad question to ask, but the question is, should I not have a firearm in regards? I'll leave that up to you.
Wait, hold on. Who talked you into getting a 92 FS?
You shut up.
Okay, now who is a big advocate for red flag laws?
Both
me. Okay, so like this is why I'm saying it needs to be a case-by-case basis, because not everybody with bipolar disorder becomes destructive. Like you being destructive on a fucking Discord, who the fuck cares? You're not harming anybody. You're just being a jackass on the internet, okay? You're being a fucking loser, okay? But like there are people who have like the really down times. Like my mom is great when she's manic. When she's depressive, she's like stabbing my dad or like beating me with shit. Like it's crazy. That's the type of people that shouldn't own guns. Now this is why I'm saying it has to go by a case-by-case basis. Like I said, mental health issues and serious mental health issues too, or mental illness, to use that word, like they don't affect everybody the same way. So I don't feel comfortable being an advocate for red flag laws and just demonizing an entire fucking swath of the population that may have this disorder, because it might not affect them the same way it affects somebody who does become violent or a potential threat to themselves or others, where like this person that might have say major depressive disorder, right, might just lock themselves in a room for 3 weeks and cry it out, okay, but not hurt themselves. There's no history of self-harm. There's no history of anything like that. But what I'm saying is we should take a look at these people that are susceptible to being more on that self-harm side, have a history of self-harm, maybe harming others, lashing out at school, fights, like a history of violent acts against themselves or others. And those are the people that we should bar. That's why I think we should take it a case-by-case basis, because it's unfair to label everything as a problem when it might not be a problem.
Thank you so much for that, Samantha. I still want to hit my second point.
Shut the fuck up.
Kiss my ass, Sam. All right. Now, the other thing that I want to hit on is the barriers to limitations. Whether you have classes, saves, time, all these cost money, all these cost time, and every time that you add another layer or barrier to entry in this is that you systematically eliminate people that are going to have access to that. Because if you're working 60 hours a week and you have time to classes, you ain't getting a gun, sonny. That ain't going to happen. So these are serious concerns that we have to agree with.
Oh, well. I still think the most dangerous person with a gun is somebody who doesn't know how to use it, doesn't know proper safety procedures, and isn't fucking trained on it. So suck it up. You want a gun, go through the fucking procedures, jump through the fucking hoops, and get the fucking gun. Go through the background check, go through the mental health check, go through the class, learn about some goddamn safety, learn how to fucking take apart, maintain your firearm, because if you don't maintain your firearm, that's a liability. Learn how to shoot your firearm safely, handle your firearm safely, learn some trigger discipline. A fucking weekend at the range during a class isn't going to fucking kill you, but fucking around with a gun when you're not trained to can. So shut the fuck up, suck it up, buttercup, and go through the hoops.
I love you for making my point for me, but yeah, I'm trying to be a little accommodating to our leftist friends here. But go off,
They're
Queen.
stupid. Don't.
Oh boy.
Oh, why you
Thanks
being
for being
so mean to
accommodating.
me?
Well, let's go to
Wait.
Wordy, Maddie, then Kobe.
Okay, well, I mean, like at the end of the day, like have people having guns is good, but you know, at the end of the day, we need to be smart with guns and shit. Like that's the basic process, and this whole idea of like banning guns just because it's there, it's like it's just a really stupid mindset to have, because at the end of the day, it's just people need guns to be able to defend themselves and be able to, like, you know, have
That's not true.
Wait, what? Okay, so
Yeah.
the idea. Okay. My brain, I'm too fucking tired at this point. I'm just going to hop off here. I believe in people having gun ownership. I might not have one yet, but I plan on doing in the future. Yeah, I'm going to be heading off. Make sure you go touch some fucking grass. Samantha, run the flag. I'll see you later.
Have a good one, buddy. Thank you for being around. All right.
No problem.
Yeah. Let's go to Maddie, because she's amazing and just she's great. And then Kobe if he comes back. But Maddie, please.
Yeah, I mean, so like normally I'm someone who is like, waving the banner of like gun control, gun control. One area that I struggle with though is like exactly what Tiberius was talking about with mental health screenings. So I have a family member who is bipolar type 1, and I struggle with the thought that should something like that go into place, if he would want to own a firearm, like the thought that something that's out of his control, that also like he's never shown himself to be violent, even when in a manic psychotic episode, and yet that could somehow prevent him from owning a firearm, when like conversely, like there are plenty of people who are like fucking violent, but they don't have some sort of like diagnosable like mental illness that can be neatly packaged into a box, and thus they would be seen as okay. And a lot of that too is just like our entire mental health system and how certain things are diagnosed are, I mean, it's a lot of it is like guessing and seeing if something works or not. I mean, I have chronic anxiety, depression, and just like finding the right dosage for medication for me is like, that's right, Riverboat Jack. Like it's a lot of like, well, let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. So even just like being able to categorize people as, oh, you are this or this or this. I fear that if we had rules like that put into place, it would also serve as a deterrent for people to seek help if they need help, because they wouldn't want to be prevented from access to things. So it's something I struggle with, because on the one hand, I do want to prevent like firearms being put into the hands of people who are potentially dangerous or have a propensity for violence. But on the other hand, like I also recognize that like I don't know that mental health or like having a certain condition necessarily makes you more likely to be violent. And I don't want to prevent people from, being able to buy a gun if it means that like they don't seek help for treatment, because they know that as soon as they do, that is something that will follow them, and they will no longer be able to like buy a weapon when other people who are actually violent can.
Yeah, I just don't like the
so
whole
residue.
doing it over mental health. It feels the same as like, oh, well, people with mental illnesses are predisposed to violence by, like genetic or condition. It seems like the same argument like
they're
that people
not.
made against like people of color, where it's like, oh, well, black people are just more violent,
Right.
or like, these fucking, bad hombres
just
from across the
naturally
border.
more
Yeah, they're just
aggressive.
naturally more aggressive. Like it's same bullshit with pit bulls. Fuck that shit. Case by case.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Pit bulls are just like gigantic lap dogs. Okay.
True.
Thank
I
you.
just want to say that nuance is sexy and not a sin. Thank you so much, Maddie.
Maddie's great.
Yep.
So I will go to our friend Kobe, who's back at it. And does anyone else, maybe someone new who wants? Okay, Ninetales wants to go afterwards. But raise your hand if you want to jump in. All right. So I will go to Kobe then. Oh, Vines, you want to go? I'm not sure. Did you raise your? All right, and all right then Dan as well. All right, Kobe.
Hello, everybody. I'm reporting in from the live front lines of the hospitality industry. Okay, we're all checked in for the night. We're ready. Okay, we're checked out of hospitality mode, checking into debate mode. Okay, so first things first, I agree on the mental illness point here. I think there probably is like a larger discussion about like people with mental illness, but like none of us here are equipped to be able to distinguish like as we said, like traditional mental illness with like severe things that like block ability to act and stuff. We all agree. I mean, like I'm sure we'd all agree there should be some line there, but that's something that's I think a little bit too far for this venue. I kind of wanted to like analyze a little bit like the role of guns in like social movements, right? Or like the role of violence more broadly, right? So I think that there's a little bit like every single time that specifically the study that I bring up, I heard that a Stanford study was brought up earlier. The one that I bring up is the Chenoweth study. I'm not sure if that's the same one. I think that Chenoweth and the other person's out of Yale. But like, so number one, in this study, they do like the whole point of the study is to compare and contrast more violent movements with less violent movements, right? So like one of the examples of a successful violent movement they use is the Tamil Tigers, which is a terrorist movement in the north of Sri Lanka that is relatively successful. And then of course they like contrast that with other kinds of like nonviolent movements. And like again, like every single time, it does seem to be that like more people want to participate in a nonviolent movement, and that nonviolent movements at least can get whatever types of changes they get through. It seems like they're a little bit longer in place. There are a lot of examples of like high flare-ups of violence that then dissipate very quickly because it's hard to find somebody on this. I think we were talking a couple weeks ago on this panel about the idea that like a revolutionary is a suicidal position in society. There's a truth to that, and most people don't want to commit suicide. Okay, most people don't want to fucking die. They don't want to be prison. They don't want to go to prison. They don't want to be tortured or whatever. Right? Something that Tiberius said I really disagreed with. Oh my God, the curse of Kobe. I don't think that violent movements are super successful, so I have to take this call, and I will give the rest of my wonderful takes in a little.
Okay, well, we can't wait to have you, buddy. All right, so
A whirlwind.
yeah, he's great. We love Kobe. So let's go to
me too.
I want to talk about a little bit of that. I'm sorry.
You want to respond directly to that?
I want to respond a little bit about violent revolution if I can for like 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
You're entering the lion's den.
So yeah, true. So violent revolutions are really interesting because whenever you have like protest, social strife, whatever, is that there's usually layers where a lot of it's peaceful and then it gets into some levels of violence. And when we talk about violent protest, yeah, I'm going to bring it up. Last year, whether how much something is violent or about how much something is peaceful, is that there's usually a bit of both, right? Just you have to accept that. So the question here is that what level does violence and destruction and chaos actually start feeding the hand? Because sometimes you actually have to have violence. I'm going to say it. You have to have violence to actually get people to pay the fuck attention. On the other side of that is that if you have too much violence, you have too much destruction and death, people go against your side. There is a absolute calculus in this, and you can see this throughout history. There's a green zone. I don't know where it is. I don't like talking about it because it's cringe as fuck, but we have to admit it exists.
Okay.
That was the longest 30 seconds ever. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just being a dick.
So we'll go Ninetales, Fines, Dan, Jack.
Yeah, so regarding things being a case-by-case basis, the problem with that is that these like something like a red flag law is supposed to be preventative, meaning we don't wait for them to show signs that they're going to be violent, because sometimes they don't. Some people just don't, because they're smart enough to know that if they do, then they'll have their guns taken away. Tiberius, I really am sure that you're a great guy, and your bipolar may not necessarily make you prone to shooting somebody. I agree with that. However, in cases, or in this, when I say cases with mental health disorders, I should say, that we can prove cause like an increased likelihood to use their gun. And a perfect example is actually depression. Like nobody will say that there's no connection between depression and suicide. And if you're going to try to tell me that people who are suicidal aren't going to use a gun to do it over various methods due to the reliability, and B, the low chance of, I guess the reliability is the same thing as a low chance of, hanging on to a death or hanging on to life, I should say. So, like, I think it should be per mental health, unfortunately, as much as that does screw a lot of people over, because usually when you see a statistical correlation along, and there is some sort of cognitive model that shows that they're less capable of using clear thought while using the gun, then those two things together should be, to me, pretty strong evidence that they aren't. As far as like having gun safety goes, that's like ideal and all, but like that's just like that probably gun safety is probably key when somebody doesn't have like mental health disorders or ill intent. Because like a lot of gun safety probably isn't used in the heat of the moment, and I'm sure people who don't like regularly take classes or train for this tend to forget those things at some point. So the reliability of that training also goes down over time unless it's regular, which I'm sure gun nuts will hate. Not maybe you, but like others in general. Sorry, I'm just going through notes. Oh, and for the mental health study that doesn't, and Jack, I'm having trouble reading through the whole thing. Where did I put that? But darn it, I brought up, okay, here we go. It said something about how, I thought I saved it, but emotion debunking, okay, here we go. Whoa, weird. It said something about how, the majority of people who did do mass shootings, and mind you, that study considers all mass murders to be like, to count, right? So like, that means even like not like terrorist-based mass shootings, but like maybe like a gang thing or something like that. It seems.
Yeah.
But besides that, and so well, I think that muddies the waters and things, certain things. But
How?
besides,
It examined all mass murders.
yeah. Well, when usually when we talk about mass shootings, we're talking about the ones that stand out from gang violence, and I think that those ones do have a correlation
Why wouldn't
to
they
mental
count?
health. Well, for one thing, I think they do have a correlation to mental health. But anyways, that study was saying that they did actually have a history of non-psychotic, I forget the exact wording, but
Psychopathy.
something, no, non-psychotic, psychological or neurological disorders or something like that. And I'll have to find it. I'll just get the link back from VC, I guess, because I
Okay.
thought I had it up in a tab.
Okay.
And oh,
No,
yeah, sorry. I was going to try to make one more point
Okay.
about the PTSD just to get back at Sam. It's like I'm not like making this up. This is what doctors say about people with PTSD is that A, they tend to see innocuous things as threats when they're not, and B, the resources in their brain are reserved for basically fight or flight. And so I really want to just like reach out to you and say, I get that you want 100% statistics. I think, I really think that like the definition of PTSD should be good enough.
Okay.
Well, think isn't anything. Hold on, I want to rebut two of those things. That whole like, well, we know that people with mental illnesses are like, because of this, we know this. Like, I heard the same shit with like, well, it's about the shape of the skull. It's like, this is what you sound
not
like
the
with this
same.
fucking. No. This is what you sound like though. You're using fucking stupid ass arguments and just trying to paint everybody with the same brush when it's a fucking different thing. And
But
being
no,
in fight or
because the
flight.
difference
Being
is
hold on,
can I
hold on,
explain the difference?
no. Just
May I
because
explain
see
the difference?
Just no.
You don't know the difference.
I'm not done
I wanna help you
talking.
out, Sam.
Shut the fuck up, cunt.
I'm trying to help you out.
Listen here, you bug-eyed freaking duper butt. Listen,
just
I'm
wanna
gonna
explain the difference
I'm
that
gonna
you don't
start saying
understand.
really weird shit. I'm gonna start
I
saying
know,
really
but
weird shit.
But here's the thing, is that you just said you don't
Listen,
get the difference.
listen.
But that's your problem, is that you don't get the difference.
I'm gonna start going fanatic on
Oh
you.
my God,
I'm a finish.
okay.
I'm a finish.
Sam, you just identified the problem, is that you don't get the difference.
I'm a finish.
Okay, Samantha, finish your point.
Okay, so, but like, here's the thing: we can't paint all of them with one brush. Like saying that, like it's because I'm in a fight or flight, or I see everything as a threat. Just because I may see everything as a threat does not mean that I am a threat. Okay, being like on a heightened, elevated sense of fucking my surroundings does not make me a threat. It makes me hyper aware of my surroundings. It makes it so when I go to eat a restaurant with my wife, I have to face the door. It makes it so when I go to the bank, I know how many people are in front of me or behind me and where they are in relation to my body, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to go out and fucking shoot all of them. For fuck's sake, quit
So much
demonizing
wrong with
people with
this.
mental health. No, there's so
just
much
so
wrong
much
with
wrong
your
with
dumbass
this.
take.
Look, Can I get
Hold on.
You made
trans
your
people,
two
trans
points.
people, trans people was a mental illness. Guess what? No
Yeah,
trans people
let's
should
ask
own
about
guns
that.
because it's a fucking mental
Okay.
illness. Okay. No
I-
trans people should be able to fucking have a right to self-defense with a firearm because it's a fucking mental illness. Trans people are a mental illness.
Okay.
Is that what you
okay,
want?
So,
you fucking dumbass.
So
well, are you gonna let me respond,
before-
or are you just gonna keep going? Because I
before
did
you
try
respond-
responding. And here's
so-
I got to respond.
I'm actually gonna
No,
go.
please.
So
Okay.
yeah. So everybody have a great night. Sub to Prime. Have a great night,
Love you,
everybody.
Savitar. Have a good one, buddy. All
Love you
right.
too, buddy.
Let's
Yeah,
switch
so-
your point. And then we.
So individual differences don't vary amongst people who are diagnosed with PTSD, because what we have found, just through like this is how diagnoses work, is that they do have these cognitive limitations. And so you say that it's not a threat to see threats when they're not there. What if your dog walks around the corner? And I'm not going to use children because I know you have children. I don't want to do something that might make it more emotional, but like, do you really like? Isn't that dog at a greater threat if you're more likely to perceive it as one? Is that not fair to say?
I own as of last week 32 firearms. I've owned them for years.
doesn't
I've had
that's not an answer to my question.
Shut the
Answer
fuck
my
up. Listen,
question.
listen. No, shut the fuck up. I'm answering your question. I've had a child
do.
for about 7 years. I've had dogs forever. I've had people in my house that are not my friends or family. Okay, I have people everywhere. Guess how many people I have shot since I've owned any of my firearms, and I was not in a combat zone with authorization to shoot. Guess how many people I've shot?
Okay, but that's not the point. And
No.
that's-
Guess
and
no.
I'm evading your
You're trying to
question. I'm
no.
evading your
You're saying that
question.
no. You're saying that because I'm a
evading
threat.
your
No, you
question.
tried to bring it up. Like, what if a
Cut me off.
dog walked around a corner? No.
Yeah,
You want to fucking
I'm
no.
not
You want this
evading your
question?
question.
Bring up.
Let
Let
me-
me. You,
okay,
yeah, now you ask. Let me answer the question. 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 Let me answer the question without interruption. Let me answer the question. Let me answer the question.
You asked me a question. It wasn't fair to answer the question. Let me answer your questions if you want to keep talking.
Shut. Great.
She asked me a question. I'm trying to answer it.
Okay, well, answer it, and then we're moving on because other people are waiting.
Okay.
Yeah, Sam, I hope you realize, Sam. I really
Shot
hope
none.
you. I really hope that you realize that it takes reliable cognitive facilities to be safe with the gun, and not being able to tell the difference between what is a threat or not is the basis of, or sorry, being able to tell the difference is the basis of gun safety. And I'm sorry, like if you don't get that, then like
Well,
you're actually
maybe-
disproving the gun
maybe-
safety argument.
No, maybe me having not shot anybody
Great.
is a proof that people with PTSD can make a difference between a threat and something I need to shoot.
Beautiful.
You're
great.
welcome.
Fines, Dan, Jack, Ty. Fines, go ahead, please. Oh, and Kobe after Fines because he didn't get it for this point. Go ahead, Fines.
So, I was gonna talk about like some other things, but I guess I'll start off with this. The ableist liberal discourse of saying we should bar the mentally ill from owning guns is really fucking painful. I really don't think that focusing on the mentally ill and using ableist tropes to justify blanket gun bans is the right way to do this. I think it's embarrassing to do that, to be honest with you. There are many mentally ill people who have aren't really a threat to society. Maybe there are some. Maybe there are different brands, like different mental disorders that might make you more prone to violence. I'm not totally sure. I don't have a lot of education on it. But I do know that there are many mentally ill people that are perfectly capable of using guns to fucking defend themselves. Also, liberal discourse about gun control as a whole is really fucking painful. I'm not saying okay, so marginalized people should be using guns to defend their communities. This is 100,000,000%. If you
That will
fucking
not go
disagree
out
with
as
this, you're a
planned.
fascist. I don't know how to say this. If you disagree with this, you literally are a fascist.
You really think that the cops are just gonna be like,
Guys,
okay,
listen to me,
they have
listen to me,
guns,
Ryan.
let's stop.
There have been groups in the past, such as the Black Panther Party, that have openly brandished guns as a means to defending the black community from white supremacy. Also, there is a queer liberation army in Rojava as we fucking speak, fighting fascists in Syria and killing these, or in Minecraft, essentially defending themselves from fascists and from Islamic fundamentalists in Syria. Guns have been used time and time again all throughout history to defend communities. However, one thing that Unicat said earlier about black people brandishing guns in the public, and I think this is a valid concern, is brandishing guns in the public is a threat to individual marginalized people. So I think it should be done in a very safe way. but we do have to recognize the utility that guns have from a political perspective in resisting fascism. And as long as liberals like you continue to have the opinions that you do, you are enabling fascism 100%.
But yeah, you said it was ableist. What I said about mental health. You do realize that like the models to describe mental health illness are not inherently ableist, right? So you're doing a bullshit take, and just because you like Sam can't tell the difference between personality and cognitive capability, that doesn't make it less valid. You need to fucking do your research before you come to these conclusions, instead of saying, "Oh, I know some people, so therefore it's fine." It's not fascist for me to want people to be safer. You call it authoritarian, sure, but I'm actually highly critical. No, I'm sorry, you don't know what fascism is. I'm highly critical of authoritarian regimes. However, I really don't think we can ever like have one that if you try to fight it with guns, they're just going to say, oh, okay, they have guns. Let's bring equally sized guns and duke it out that way. I'm sorry that the 1850s, where the biggest gun you can get was a freaking single shot rifle, is so gone. And I'm like, I don't know gun history, so it was probably even older than that. So yeah, I see Tiberius rubbing his head. Yeah, like that probably was a pretty dumb history take. Yeah, I don't care about your stupid memes, dude. Stop with your dumbass memes. Like the biggest problem with what you said, is that black communities are going to defend themselves with gun. No, they're going to enable the military. They're going to enable the military-industrial complex to drop bombs on them. And fucking you think that white supremacists are going to be like, oh, they have guns, let's just stop? No, they're going to start fucking planting bombs and shit. You're just escalating things.
Okay. All right. So, 1 second. Multiple things here. One, Samantha got muted for 10 minutes, so that's the thing that's happening. 2, thank you Anonymous for that gift sub, and then 3, thank you a little bits for your very first gift subs to our good friend Xavier Wolf, who's an amazing friend of the channel. So thank you for deciding to invest in this community. It means a lot.
Hey, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't looking at chat, but I appreciate it.
Yeah. And thank you for the other people who are coming through. We're going to go to Kobe next, Dan, Jack, Ty, Unicat.
All right, yeah, base, cool. I mean, I just gotta ask Fines a question. So I'm looking at my numbers here really quick. So I don't have my I do not have my stats on hand. But would you say that like people of color in America that support gun control are also fascists?
So what I meant by fascist is I was saying that marginalized people are defending against fascists, like in certain cases. I wasn't saying that gun control people are necessarily fascists, although I may have said that against whenever I was talking to
the exact words that came out of your mouth. That's like the exact words that came out of your mouth. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm saying it enables fascism. I didn't say it is fascism.
You
I said
enable
it enables fascism.
Dumb
Those are my
fucks like you
words.
enable
Rewatch the VOD. Holy fuck.
Dumb fucks like you enable fascism. I just gotta say, like, I disagree with Ninetales on this. Like, I've argued with Ninetales a ton, but like, I don't think that like it's very fair to like label her position here like liberal, ableist, idpol that wants to take all that. I think she has a reasonable position here. Like, I even said like I think we all agree that I don't fucking know what the line here is drawn, but like let's be have a little like 1% charity here, okay? Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I really wanted to say was like I wrote a bunch of stuff down about how, like the Salt March in India and how like that was like that's an example of like violence without guns, right? Like violence. I mean, like obviously you have to expand the definition of violence a little bit. But I think that like if we like that was just a place that I wanted to take it, and I think I heard Tiberius taking it there briefly. But like I think it's good to talk about the ways like we can civilly be disobedient in lots of ways that don't require guns. Obviously, guns and explosives and swords and stuff are like really high up there on like the effectiveness level, right? But like, for example, not that I'm saying you should do this, you should not do this in fact, but if you were to hammer a railroad spike into 1% or say 10% of the trees of a forest, a vast majority of logging companies will not log in that forest. You should never do that. That would be a horrible thing to do. And also just like in general, like when it comes to violence, like in any way, like I would say like organized and deliberate destruction of infrastructure is like way more like socially acceptable than like just mass violence against random people, right? Like for example, I think that like like you know what I mean? Like, who am I strawmanning?
Strawmanning me, I think. I'm not totally sure.
He's addressing what I said.
I mean, like if anything, this is probably like this is like majority of this is kind of just like for whoever's interested. I'm sorry, buddy.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
Just informing us of what not to do.
Okay, all right.
Exactly.
So,
Anyways, I mean that's about it. I'll live with that. I think guns obviously are very good at doing violence. We invented them for a very reason. But I do think that you can do violence in a lot of different ways, both symbolically and financially. Right, the salt march. The reason why it was symbolic is because you have to have salt to live, or you will die in places like India, which you don't get it through enough of your food. And also, it was like quintessential to the British Raj, the British rule in India. Right, it was like a double symbology. Right, the British Raj was sucking the life out of the Indian people, and also this is a way that we can like literally like stop it. So
okay.
anyways,
So
I
multiple
think the
things.
discussion of civil disobedience needs to be a little expounded on gun control, and then we need to be a little more realistic. We're talking about actual like implementation of gun control.
Sure. Multiple things happened. One, Ninetales got muted for 10 minutes as well. But our good friend Wicked Supreme came in with a huge raid. Thank you, Wicked Supreme. Thank you for being so kind to help out the channel like that. Hope your stream went well, friend. Yeah, sorry I couldn't acknowledge that immediately. To the people here, we are having an open walk-on panel talking about, originally it was about whether guns actually protect women. We've kind of like moved away, but I still think it's a really good topic, so we want to move back to that. That'd be great too, because it's a great topic. But anyway, we're talking about all kinds of stuff. It's been a crazy panel, insane panel. I missed out on quite a bit. You were on a good stream, so like you had a good excuse, because Wicked Supreme's an excellent streamer. We love him. But if you think you might enjoy what we do here, right, then hit that follow button right now. In case you don't know me, hit that follow button. Make sure notifications are on. We do it 6 days a week. 6 days a week we give this content. We'll always have something new for you. So please be so kind. Hit that follow button right this second. And thank you again, Wicked Supreme, for being so generous with the community. Okay, last thing is that we have a level 2 hype train in chat, 0% done, but people kept muting other people, and we got a hype train out of it. So that's amazing. So if you want to help out that hype train, we have less than 90 seconds left on the clock. It'd be awfully nice. Grab those emotes, right? Those exclusive hype train emotes you cannot get anywhere else. Do that, and it really helps us, keeps us sustainable. But one way or the other, I thank you all for the strong support we've seen, the extremely strong support we've seen tonight. Thank you so much. All right, moving on. And thank you, Kobe, for all of that. That was great. We love you, buddy. All right, now we go to Dan, Jack, Ty, Unicat. Ninetales, you'll jump in at some point, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, Ninetales, I'm very surprised on this amount of takes, and you're a lot better than this. And I hope that maybe this at least could learn from this. But to get to other points that people said, Tiberius did make points that there's there's between revolutions that are violent and non-violent. We can enable, much of them could be enabled through the use of weapons, but there has been revolutions for sure that have not been used for using any weapons but mass gatherings. Probably at the one point I made before, as we talked about this, was the us meme of people holding hands across the country in the Baltic countries, what is now the Baltic countries, and they were able to get their at least their own freedom through the USSR from doing that. But I find much of this, but getting to the point of like ableism, as to what Ninetales has said, she made, I think, even much of the case of people with who are PTSD, or maybe even have like other disabilities like autism, to be able to defend themselves or at least make good decisions. It's been very much a discurring thought to wanting to keep people from ever being in a position to defend themselves in the first place. It's, even if this is like what you think is against the your point of like bringing up some studies, I think there would be more studies out there that are against this point altogether.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll go to Jack, Ty, Unicat, and 2B. Yeah, and if the people, the non-cams, if you want to jump in on, you gotta let me know. All right. So let's go to Jack, please.
I do.
Oh, all right. Go ahead. Sure, Vix. All right, Jack.
Okay, so to kind of circle back around to respond to Ninetales just very briefly, to quote the study that I was talking about, the conclusions, their results should suggest that policies aimed at preventing mass shootings by focusing on serious mental illness characterized by psychotic symptoms may have limited impact. Policies such as those targeting firearm access, recreational drug use, and alcohol misuse, legal history, and non-psychotic psychopathology might yield more substantial results. So that's basically just the gist of it. The results are that serious mental illness, not a huge factor in violent crimes and mass shootings and mass death events as other factors. On top of that, to kind of go to the point of like nonviolence when it comes to like peaceful movements versus like violent campaigns. Overall, like that Erica Chenoweth study is really interesting and good. And it looks at a bunch of movements around the world. I found it very fascinating. But part of the findings are that not only now they don't always succeed. Like it definitely causes more damage to like blow up bombs and shoot people. But the long-lasting implications of a peaceful, nonviolent movement tend to have lingering effects in societies where they occur. So even if they are violently put down by the state, for example, largely over the following years, countries will adopt more progressive reforms in response to the nonviolent protests, something that doesn't necessarily happen when a violent revolution is quelled. On top of that, one of the factors that the Chenoweth study like looks at is that when these nonviolent movements begin arming themselves, that tends to play into the state propaganda because the state's strategy is to crush them and paint them as violent rebels. The harder that peaceful protests make that, the easier it is for public support to actually grow for nonviolent protesters. And the other thing is when to kind of talk about Tiberius, you brought up like Black Lives Matter and like how peaceful protest has kind of these peripheral movements of violence around it. I think that's often I think that's often true. You can even look at Martin Luther King Jr. Like today we hold him up as like this paragon of peace and what a great nonviolent man. When he died, the polling in the United States had 75% of the population hating Martin Luther King Jr. because they blamed him for violence, they blamed him for riots, they blamed him for all kinds of what was then deemed violence. So regardless of how nonviolent your movement is, you're going to have peripheral activities that people see it negatively. So it seems to be, though, that the longer lasting strategy for actual change that persists, whether or not the nonviolent campaign succeeds in its like original goal, you want to go with nonviolence. It has the best outcome, whether or not the movement succeeds.
I'd like to jump in if I can. If that's okay.
One second. So we got a lot of people waiting. But we'll put you online. And you are, whoever you are. First of all, Mage Don.
Lord.
Pitcher, do you yourself a favor and like get like an actual avatar at least? It helps, make you distinguishable from the crowd. But okay.
All right, man. I'll be sure to do that.
Sure. Well, I put you in the list. Okay. Thank you for that, Jack. And then Ty, you're up next on the same which way, so you can respond to Ty, Unicat, 2B, Viv, and Mage Don.
Yeah, I was gonna make some rebuttals, but Jack actually took about 90% of it, so I don't really see the point in continuing on from that. So I'm actually gonna take this as my outro and be like, hey, if you guys like what I had to say, if you like Samantha, come join us on the best show on Sunday nights, the Mascot Podcast, where you can find us two counterpoints and one guest of the week, where we find and we talk about all the wonderful things. It's got a bit of a light ring bend for you, but you've got about a week before I start falling back into my ugly side. So if you want to earn some of my respect while I have some tolerance, you're welcome to stick around. Have a good one, guys.
All right, thank you for being here, Ty. And Ty's link is in the chat. Great supporter of this community, and we're happy to see him growing. And Ty has a business. But Ty, do you ever like advertise your business? I don't know. You have like a website or something?
The business is the show.
Oh, okay.
It's Tiberius Communications. I run 2 shows. It's Geopolitics with Tiberius D, where I talk about like world events and what's going on out in the rest of the world. We're kind of on a slowdown period right now, but I also just kind of talk about like why is Africa having such problems economically developing when Europe seemed to never have a problem. That's a big question I get continually asked. And then Mask Off Conversations is the other side of that. The Mask Off podcast is just like the front face of that, but I also do shows usually when Prime's streaming. Sorry to compete with you, buddy.
That's fine.
But I usually, have one-on-one chats with people, kind of do a little bit of interview thing, and then on Fridays we have the Mask Off Conversations panel, which is like an issue of the week kind of thing. So thank you for letting me promo myself a second time.
No problem, buddy. All right. So we'll go to Unicat 2B, Viv, and Mage Don. But just so you know that Samantha and
I'm unmuted.
We were unmuted a long time ago, Ninetales. But
Also, remember I had my hand raised early.
Oh boy. All right. So we'll go to Ninetales after that. All right. So Unicat, please.
Okay, so were we on the topic? I kind of dropped it in the middle. On the topic of people with mental illnesses being able to with like guns. I have some points on that. I personally, as someone with several mental illnesses, do not think that I'm qualified to own a gun. Like I would not trust myself with it. Like I would be like walking home at night and I would hear like a tree or something and then shoot the tree. That doesn't mean that all people with mental illnesses would be able to, would do that though. Like I heard Samantha say something like it should be on a person to person basis, and I agree with that. I honestly agree. I think it should be like that with everybody, because even people who are not deemed mentally ill, well, first of all, they're undiagnosed people. I feel like situational things should be taken into consideration as well. I feel like everybody should be evaluated before they get to like purchase a gun or something like that. And then I don't know if anybody brought. I mean, this is kind of goes back to like my earlier point about like black people and like having guns and stuff like that. I don't know if anybody's brought this up yet, but I wanted to. Someone brought up the Black Panthers, and I just wanted to say that like I feel like if black people suddenly started registering for guns, everybody would push for gun control, because oh my god, look, they're having guns, they're gonna take over, and everybody would be like, I don't know. So yeah, that's my point on the mental I don't know, just some points I didn't get to say. And then I heard that the conversation is gonna go back into like, do guns protect women or something like that, and I wrote down a few more points about that. I mean, but I'm not gonna say them right now.
Just say them.
I'm just gonna repeat my previous one, which is that.
Just say your points. Just trust me. You want to say them now, or we don't know when we'll get back to you. So just say them. And just for the record, Ninetales, you got muted again. But say your points, Unicat, all of them.
I got muted?
No, I said Ninetales. Ninetales got muted.
Okay.
Say all your points.
Okay. So I was going to say that once again, it might get rid of like individual cases if we were to arm women to defend themselves, but it wouldn't help alleviate the root cause, which is like of domestic violence. It would just help with individual cases, like our justice system already does. Like it gets rid of individual criminals, but it doesn't do anything to help like why people do that kind of stuff in the first place. And also speaking about those individual cases, like let's say a woman does kill her abuser or injure him with a gun. Okay, yeah, he's no longer a threat anymore, but there is a bunch of aftermath that woman would have to deal with that I don't feel like people are discussing. if you get what I'm trying to say, like it's not a simple like I don't know. There's a bigger discussion to be had with all of this, and it's definitely not as simple as does it or does it not. Like there's so many layers. I don't even understand like how people think that there's a simple answer to this, and I don't know how many times I need to repeat that.
Oh, good. Are you done?
Did you?
Are you done?
Someone wanted to respond.
Oh.
I see someone lighting up there.
No. That's Mage Don breathing into his mic. Mage Don, maybe you should mute yourself, buddy. But okay.
I'm sorry, buddy. It's just the wind.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah, just mute yourself. All right. So we'll go to Tubi, Viv, Mage Don, then Ninetales. If she's unmuted at the time.
Oh yeah, so for me, I don't know, this is where I kind of separate from the left a little bit. With the gun control stuff, I mean, I think it's just a misdirection of where people ought to be pushing their efforts towards. So many people on here, I think, is it Jack, talked about one of the correlates for gun violence, which is like poverty and stuff like that. Why don't we just address that? Why do we have to go down? So many people say, oh, let's go down the dual road. Why can't we handle gun reform or, limit people's rights to get access to guns and then also tackle the poverty thing? How about you just tackle the prime mover? Why do we have to go down this other route where we act like it's beneficial?
I thought.
Sorry, where we act like it's.
I made a joke. I made a joke. I apologize. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, no, that's fine. Why do we have to go down this route where the left seems to have this infatuation with like, there's a problem, let's limit people's rights, and then the government just comes in and that fixes the problem. When there are other things that are strong correlates for gun violence, why not just address the prime mover and deal with that? I mean, it seems simpler, and it's like you can solve the problem by getting rid of the prime mover. You don't have to introduce this other thing that limits people's rights. You don't have to go out and get a gun if you don't want to. Gun violence that does occur seems to have some strong correlates that are prime movers for being predictive of like, these are circumstances that are going to lead to gun violence. I would like to deal with those things instead of trying to deal with those things and then also limit people's rights. I also think that we talked about how there's the issue of like mental health and who should have access to a gun. Yeah, that's not there's not going to be an arbitrary solution to that. That is something that has a bit of ambiguity and is difficult to parse out. So for me, I would be more on Samantha's side, where it's like, take that case by case. Just because you have a mental illness does not mean that you're incapable of properly wielding a weapon and knowing when to use it and all that stuff. I mean, I don't understand if that's controversial to anyone. I don't think it is. And I think Amanda said earlier, like, oh, you can't use the defense that this getting rid of some rights would harm minority people. As a minority, yes, I can. What are you talking about? That's what I care about. If something's going to disproportionately affect me, maybe Amanda doesn't care about that, but to me, that is a big deal. And again, I'm just still not seeing the good argument for limiting gun rights. There's all these other factors that you could address that are the actual cause of why people's mental health is unstable, why they feel depressed enough to kill themselves. Deal with that stuff. And yes, that also comes with training, or not training, they're not dogs, but like teaching men to have, change their perception on women and how they interact with them, and give them resources to deal with stress and all that stuff so they don't get overly depressed and shoot themselves in the head. I mean, I don't know.
So, but also, black people, like you're saying, well, this taking away guns will disproportionately affect black people, but also gun violence disproportionately affects black people. And then there's being dead, and then there's not having a gun. So those are two different things.
Sure. And also,
Tubi.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, gun violence disproportionately affects black people. And why does it disproportionately affect black people? Probably because black people are more likely to be poor and more likely to not have wealth. I mean, that is something that a lot of black people are born into. You're put into positions that surround you in precarious circumstances. I grew up with people who were Bloods, Crips, Essays. They were coming over my house, hanging out, and it seems innocuous. It seems like, oh, these people are my friends and they're cool and they want the best things for me. They will, at that culture that is a problem for Black people will absolutely put you in precarious circumstances. And it's, of course, economically driven. It, of course, ties back to the history of how Black people got to their current position, which, of course, is affected by racism. But yeah, so yeah, of course, it's going to disproportionately affect them. That's still not a good argument to me to get rid of guns. Again, deal with the issue of poverty, deal with the issue of education. Make being an educated member of society for Black people a viable option. And that will absolutely assuage at least some significant part of that issue. I mean, is that controversial?
No, but they're gonna say it's too hard. It's so easy to just do some quick gun legislation. Let's not fucking attack the real issues because it's too hard. It'll take too much time. Wah wah wah.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to
Exactly.
Viv, Mage Dawn, and then Ninetales. Hold on, is Ninetales? You're almost about to be muted, so don't worry about that. But Viv, just I'm honestly surprised that you're here so late. This has been a super contentious panel. Usually you're the source of my contention, but here you are. The Mixer Game Love, we're happy to have you. She's one of our superstar mods. Go ahead, Viv.
Hey, good evening, morning, wherever you are. Yeah, fuck. This conversation's moving along. First off, like the Queer and Insurrection Liberation Army, the queer army that was fighting in Rojava, as far as we know, anyway, reports are somewhat limited. Seem to be inactive at this point, so they're not currently fighting. Just to my friend at the, in the top middle there. But yeah, I mostly agree with Tubi. The problem with this debate, though, is that there's two sides, right? And it depends on really what you sort of like almost axiomatically value, right? I'm extraordinarily pro-gun. I think one of the best uses for guns is to protect your right to protest. I really object to, I think it was Kobe who was mentioning like committing mass acts of violence or whatever. I don't think that that's a viable form of protest in most of the Western world. Like you're literally talking about mass shootings, terrorist attacks, right? And like I would never fucking endorse that. But yeah, so those two sides are like, do you fundamentally value freedom and autonomy for people? And if that's the case, then, you know, the only people that you should restrict from owning guns are those people who you view as unable to make decisions for themselves, right? And that definitely doesn't extend to all mentally ill people. We recognize that mentally ill people can consent, they can make decisions about their fucking lives, whether or not they own a gun or what have you, right? You would have to be severely fucking mentally ill to the point that you need somebody to care for you in order for me to say that, like, perhaps this person should be restricted from using a gun. Same for, like, children, right? Like, we recognize they can't consent, we recognize they have limited autonomy. Maybe we shouldn't be giving kids guns. So there's that side of the argument. It's like, yeah, freedom, super important. And you have like the hard utilitarian side of the argument, right? Which admittedly does have a decent amount of data to back it up, right? That like restricting guns does restrict the amount of gun deaths. No duh. Okay. But like I think our side strongly objects to the idea that we ought to like significantly reduce somebody's freedom to own a gun, to have the right to defend themselves, especially to have the right to defend their right to protest, right? Simply for these reasons, that you would be able to like reduce gun violence that way, especially when there's other ways that we can reduce gun violence, that, like Tubi just said, right? When there's these like fundamental problems in society that we would just be glossing over by saying no more guns. Japan has one of the highest suicide rates in the world, one of the lowest gun ownership rates, right? Canada has a shit ton of fucking guns, doesn't have nearly the same problem with gun violence per capita, by the way. I'm aware America is a much larger country. So if we just say, oh well, we get rid of the guns, that'll be all right, like these other problems are still going to fucking be there. You're still going to be dealing with violence. Here in the UK, we have a big problem with knife crime in the capital. Admittedly, a knife can't kill as many people as a gun as easily, right? But knives are still pretty fucking lethal, especially when like that's all anybody's fucking got, right? There's a lot of knife deaths every year, and the knife deaths aren't caused by the fact that people can have knives. Right? Because if they weren't using knives, they'd be using something else. And that may be something that's like slightly less lethal, but it doesn't address the underlying fucking problem that poverty drives this, right? Poverty and social conditions drive the violence that's happening in London and drives the violence that's happening in the United States as well. And I think the last thing is America has a lot of really, really high profile mass shooting events, right? You actually have something around 1 to 1.5 mass shootings a day in the United States. It's fucking insane. The majority of those are obviously gun violence, but every few weeks you have like a high profile mass shooting event that is some form of like domestic terrorism. And I think that really, really scares a lot of people into thinking, shit, I don't want people to be able to own these spooky ass guns, right? Like the AR-15 or whatever. Over the course of the assault weapons ban, it doesn't seem like it had a significant effect on those mass shootings, right? Banning these scary weapons doesn't necessarily work. I like some of what the Biden administration is currently proposing in treating domestic terrorism and domestic violence as a public health issue. I have some significant problems with how they're analyzing who presents the biggest threat, but like I think that's how we have to view gun violence, as a public health issue, right? And we don't ban the things that are doing the harm in order to address these public health issues. We look at the underlying causes. We don't ban opiates. We get clinics to help people get off them, right? We don't want to criminalize gun ownership. Don't want to criminalize gun ownership, I don't think. Anyway, that's me.
Sure. Thank you so much. All right, Mage Don and Ninetales. Who's unmuted?
All right, my phone's probably going to die here in a minute, so I'm going to spiel real quick, and then you guys are probably going to be able to go on without me. The first thing I want to say about protesting, you should have, if you're going to have a protest, you should get in contact with whoever runs whatever local militia group is closest to you, and you should try to get them and come to act as security for your protests. Mutually assured destruction works for nuclear weapons. It'll also work between aggressive police and a militia group. Now, as for the actual issue of broader gun violence, human beings, and I'm pretty sure nobody's going to disagree with this, human beings are by their very nature violent animals. We just are. So what we need to do is stop trying to like just wash that away, and we need to properly focus it. All right. I've been in the past HEMA instructor, which is historical European martial arts, and I can tell you from experience that most people can't even not hit themselves with it as adults, and like that lack of coordination.
Sorry, we're having just so you know, the audio is going in and out, so just be aware of that. But keep trying your best.
The lack of knowledge of like the reality of violence is one of the major things that causes disproportionate violence in America, I would say, because we live in a relatively safe place. Most people realistically don't even get into fights in schools anymore. It doesn't happen at the same rates that it used to. So this lack of understanding of violence puts some people who actually do understand violence in a significant advantage over other people who don't. Because if you're the only person in 20 who knows how to beat the fuck out of people, you can basically threaten anybody in that group and they're going to do what you say. All right? So having more people in general understand the true nature of violence is actually probably going to reduce a lot of violence because people aren't going to want to fucking get hurt. If you look historically at things like like honor duels and stuff in the UK and in like 18th century America, most honor duels, you'd get injured. You wouldn't get killed. You know, a sword fight would be whoever gets slashed first. Okay, that's it. Like, I'm better than you. I cut you first. Like, it wasn't a fight to the death. You know, and the reason I'm pointing this out is that people think that violence, like, is always going to lead to killing, and it's not, and it shouldn't. And if more people understood, you know, simply how to beat the fuck out of each other, I feel like we would have less people getting to the point where they're actually killing each other with weapons.
Mage. Well, sorry. What is this point about honor dueling?
We should bring back swords.
Yeah.
We need
no.
Is we should educate
people. No. The point is that
in regards
during the
to
past,
their physical violent
during the
capabilities.
past, like people got fucked up, right? People died, and we got run through with swords. Like, what is this? Like, oh yeah, the new nobility.
They didn't have penicillin, bitch.
Yeah, like
I'm sure Julian was really scared.
I'm literally
Prime, meet me on the field of honor at dawn, Prime. Meet me on the field of honor at dawn.
Who are sport
Field of
fighting
honor, Prime.
are
Of
not
honor.
even.
Made the man with the bigger
not the
gun
same
win.
thing.
You also have
Like,
to assume
there's a
that-
difference between two people having a duel with swords and then an army fighting another army.
What kind of sword are we talking? Are we talking broadsword?
And some randomers fucking stabbing the shit out of each other on the street, dude. I fucking Hema people drive me fucking insane. They think every fight in the Middle Ages was just good day, sir. If I cut whoever draws blood first is the winner. A gentleman's agreement.
that.
Like no
Yeah,
fucking
Hema
bullshit.
is not like that.
People got absolutely fucked up, especially when the rule of law wasn't as established as it is like in our current nation states, right? Like when the state didn't have a monopoly on violence, people got fucked up. I'm not talking about war. I'm
What
just
if
talking
people
about
just like had control over their emotions a little bit better and like went to therapy and confronted their trauma, and they didn't have to lash out violently in order to confront some inner truths about themselves that like show that how much they hate themselves. What if we just confronted our trauma?
Maddie, we need duels.
How much of your trauma is other people who just need their fucking asses kicked, though? Like, realistic.
I reclaim my time or whatever. I reclaim my time.
Most of the kids who have to
I reclaim my time.
That's
deal
not your time
with
yet. Not
the
your time
serious
yet.
issues.
Go ahead, go Mage Don. You can finish your point if you have anything else to say. You can respond to anything else said.
My prescription for the whole situation is actually teaching in elementary school hand-to-hand stuff. So, you know, MMA, wrestling, that sort of stuff. Teach kids their physical capabilities. You don't have to have them beat the fuck out of each other because they're kids. But yes, teach them what they are physically capable of so that they're better able to defend themselves.
Do you
I
have a kid?
Two.
Okay, then you should know they beat the shit out of each other regardless. Shut the fuck up.
They do beat the shit out of each other regardless.
Also, Prime, you're saying we have the rule of law now? We have the rule of law and people are still killing people? It's like fucking some people don't give a shit about the laws, Prime. It's like some people, even if we ban guns and make it illegal, some people aren't going to follow that law. It's like...
Okay.
Which is why I think more people need to be better prepared for the rare instances of violence.
Lord, your take was complete. Your take was. I've yelled at Ninetales and God knows how many other fucking liberal dumb shits on this panel tonight. Your take wins the fucking crown of what the fuck was that garbage ass bullshit Twinkie fucking mother goddamn cunt Mary fucking horse shit of a take. Please raise your fist above the air
I'm so
and let
waiting
gravity
to
carry that
actually
shit
answer
right
that.
into your testicles.
I feel like nobody listened to a fucking thing I said.
We did. It was just that shit. It was just that garbage.
I'm gonna go.
Okay. Okay. Can I?
Bye, buddy.
I'm not gonna.
All right,
People
so-
call me obnoxious and toxic.
There's no air in this
So
panel
let's go
right now.
to Ninetales, then Dan.
Hi, Viv.
Yeah, so these are. I'm not bringing up old shit. These are things I've just been waiting to say this whole time. So Jack, for the study that you linked, I just wanted to read a certain line. Do with it what you will, but I do need to make my other points. So if you're going to respond, please respond after I get to do those. This line comes from the fifth paragraph in the link. The researchers also found that mass shooters in the United States were more likely to have legal histories, use recreational drugs, abuse alcohol. Those things I'm not necessarily for banning, to be fair, but this is the key point. And have histories of non-psychotic, psychiatric, or neurologic symptoms. To me, that seems like diagnosis is an issue, and when we better diagnose people, we can better
Let me
we
skip
can
the
deal-
drugs and
we can
alcohol,
deal
but
with
mental
it-
health
We can
bad.
better deal with it
Ooh.
as a public health issue. And I'm
Ableist as
moving on. And I'm moving on. Dan, you did not get any of my arguments right, and I don't even think you understand the substantiating points I made. So before you tell me how to argue them, which is what you did, you should be able to keep up with them. And so I'll leave it there.
We should probably just ban alcohol. It probably kills more people than
True.
guns, really
It
worldwide.
does.
Right?
It does. True.
Yeah. I didn't have the stats on hand, but just intuitively,
Yeah,
seemed to
I'm
me like
not
that's
done
the case.
yet.
Probably cigarettes as
I'm
well.
really not done yet.
I can agree with that, Viv.
Prime, you have a good night.
So
I'm
the
outta here.
argument for
Let Ninetales
eliminating
finish,
gun
please.
rights, the argument for eliminating gun rights isn't necessarily that we're treating the cause of things. The argument is that it's a bullshit statement to say I deserve to own a gun because somebody else does. Because if you're actually scared, then if you're operating from real fear and not just entitlement, then you actually want less people around you to own guns, and that's why we reduce the accessibility of guns. The just hire your local militia thing. What do you do when the only militias in there around you are KKK or something? Also,
yeah, the militia thing was dumb.
yeah, also like mutually assured destruction against your local police state. That's not mutually assured destruction, considering that they have more means and such. Because that's just assured destruction. And the dueling thing was even worse because guess who always loses a duel? The person who can afford the better weapon. So that's never going to be like
I mean,
viable to
Chaz
anybody
Chop kind of
who's
like
not
gave
rich
up.
as fuck. This is such a privileged argument.
Okay, so let's go.
I've seen one police department fucking put down their shit and leave, but like, let's not talk about that, right? It can't be done anywhere else, right?
Why?
No. Okay.
Dan.
Yeah,
We can always expect police departments to just do that. Sure.
Dan.
I'm gonna.
They usually
skip
do,
it.
yeah.
I was gonna respond to the magic guy, but he left already. I mean, I don't. I have this whole thing of. I mean, you said I don't have an understanding of violence. Is that correct? Ninetales?
Me? No, I said you don't have an understanding of what my substantiating points were when I brought up various mental health diagnoses and how they could be attributed to an inability to operate a gun safely, or
sounds
just
ableist.
attributed to a greater use of using them in a harmful way.
Yeah, I don't think that is a very conscientious way of looking at your the whole point because this is.
Can you at least give
broadly
me a steel man of my argument so I'm sure that you got it right?
Wow, you're being kind of a cunt.
Yeah, you're.
No, but no, I'm
way
serious
more
because
angry
when he repeated my arguments the first time, it was completely off point.
I was
So I
trying to-
really
I'm
want
trying
to know that they're
clarify your
arguing my
argument because
points
I was
and
trying
not
to be
his
good
own.
faith to you. God.
Yeah, so no,
Why do
please
we have
just
to be
steal me
such
my
a cunt about
arguments.
this?
No, just steal me. my points.
Jesus
That's all I'm
fucking
asking.
Christ, answer the fucking question.
Question.
Stop fucking slinging atoms.
Okay, stop. Okay, let's get to the point. Like, do you for Ninetales, do you think that if we're not in a situation of using guns or just using like other things that would cause violence, do you instead of being objectifying to all guns should be banned? Will that be a better way to handle this whole entire issue of violence altogether?
Am I the only one who heard that as fragmented?
No, I heard it all.
I heard it all.
Try to.
Okay, I do need you to repeat that. I tried
Yeah,
listening. that's
maybe you
right.
should just like disconnect, and
Or maybe someone
not
said something in
reconnect.
my chat and distracted me for a second because I have fucking ADHD. You ableist fucking prick. Can you please repeat the question? That's all I was
I'm
asking.
ableist now after you're saying all people with mental illnesses shouldn't have guns. You fucking weirdo.
No, I didn't say people with mental illnesses. You still suck at getting my point right. Holy fuck.
I guess Dan's trying to connect and reconnect just in case it was his fault, but it wasn't his fault, so I'm going to just pull him back in.
So where's the line, Ninetales? Where's the line for people with mental illness that you think shouldn't be allowed to own guns?
Well, I can only reference two examples that I'm familiar with. The first one is as we can assume that there's a correlation, if not causation, between depression and the actual attempt of suicide. I think people having access to guns when they're depressed or suicidal increases the chances that they're going to act on a suicidal thought. And with PTSD, the actual nature of the illness is that they tend to perceive threats out of innocuous things, and B, their brain tends to constantly reserve resources for fight or flight, which inhibits, or at least, sorry, doesn't inhibit, it takes away resources from cognitive processing skills.
Okay, so there's definitely different like levels of fucking PTSD, right? Like there's your Vietnam War vet who comes back and completely like depersonalizes and ends up being confused about like where he is and what he's doing, right? And then there's people who have like more complex situations where they just have like a lot of panic attacks and flashbacks
Well,
and
I
shit like
agree
that,
that there's different
right?
levels.
Well, I'm just
Could
saying,
I
like, there's
respond
a
to
significant
quick?
amount of people who have PTSD who I would not say are not fit to own firearms, right? If you're talking about somebody who repeatedly ends up in a situation where they literally don't know where they are, right? They're unable to make sensible decisions because their sense of reality is that warped. Then
Sure. I just want to
I'd
add a really
probably
quick
agree with
caveat
you.
to what you said,
Go ahead.
though, is that like there are scales to the severity of PhD or PTSD. Sorry, I'm self-studying right now, so PhDs are on my mind. But at the same time, like the categorization of PTSD that I just described is the categorization. This is what the brain does, regardless of scale. So I think
Yeah, the
I
brain
agree.
perceives
Well, I
threats where
agree.
there aren't any. I have a panic disorder, right? So my brain fucking does that. I don't have a diagnosis for like PTSD, but it's entirely fucking possible, right? My brain perceives threats where there aren't, but I'm not about to pick up a gun and fucking shoot somebody. It's a more complex
Yeah,
kind of
and I believe you, and I
situation than that.
realize that individual
Like,
cases vary, but when we have things that limit the ability for someone to use guns safely or rationally, and this is the we know that this
but
diagnosis
it doesn't
directly
limit
impacts
the
these
ability
things.
for me to use guns safely and
No, for
rationally.
you, yes,
Like
but
I'm
you
completely in.
are not all people with panic disorders and stuff like that. And if it were
No, I'm not
found,
all people with
but
panic,
if it were,
and that's my point, right? Like
but
you
Viv,
very
you as a
much
person
need.
is fine. We're talking about cognitive disorders, things that affect people
Okay,
cognitively.
but you're talking about a blanket ban on owning firearms for people
Yeah,
with specific
and I
cognitive
realize it's not
disorders.
perfect.
And well, yeah, it's not, right? And we need to be really, really careful about whose autonomy we're limiting, right? That's why you're
But we
getting
do this
called
all the time
ableist,
with mental health
basically.
because you have to be careful. With suicide, we lock people up even if they sometimes even when they're not saying that they're going to act on it for sure, because we got to make sure that like they're not going to. It's happened to me, and
Well, no,
maybe
we don't
sometimes
just
people.
lock people up because they're depressed. We lock
Yes, when
people
you're
up if they
sometimes
are
for
like an
some people who
imminent
are
threat to
considered high
themselves
risk,
or
like
others.
myself, for people who are considered high risk for like myself, even though it's beyond my control, if I have suicidal thoughts and and the doctor finds out, they'll just lock me up because I have certain disorders that make me prone to act on them.
We don't
Yeah,
do
but
that in
that's still
America, though.
providing the nine tails.
Yeah, well,
That's still providing.
America has high risk categories for certain dangers all the time,
We
and
don't
we
just
can use
lock
those
them up,
high risk
though.
categories.
Yeah, but
We don't just
We can
lock
use
them
those
up,
high
though.
risk
And does locking
categories.
people
So
up for being
if you
depressed
if
help
you
anything?
have
No, not for being depressed. Hey, for having suicidal thoughts and already being in a high risk category.
okay,
Please,
No, it's having
please listen
suicidal
to my argument.
Locking
thoughts
people
that
up
your
for that.
Please listen
doctor.
to my
So too many
arguments.
people. So
if you have
No.
severe depression, right? Um, you're still largely in control of your thoughts and actions, like most of the well, maybe not thoughts, right? You have the intrusive thoughts, but like you're largely in control of your actions most of the time, right? And you're largely a rational actor who understands that you have this condition, and you can make the decision around whether or not you feel responsible enough to have a gun in your house, right? Whether you think that like if there was a gun, you'd be more likely to fucking use it, and also whether or not you're okay with that fact. You might be okay with the fact that like if you have a gun in the house, you might be likely to use it on yourself, right?
Sure.
This is a part of people's individual fucking autonomy, and unless we can absolutely prove that that they're fucked to the point that they can't make reasonable, rational decisions, right? Then we should absolutely not be limiting their autonomy. This is
Sure.
because this argument that you're using for guns could be used for a whole bunch of other rights as well.
And it
We have to be
actually is
super,
used for
super
certain
fucking
rights.
careful. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
and
is,
I do
right?
agree we have to be careful. No, that's 100%. But here's the thing: is like what you're describing with feeling like you can use a gun properly. First of all, a lot of people with diagnoses, especially like I'm not saying people with bipolar shouldn't own guns, but bipolar is a great example of people who can have different phases where their cognition of what is possible and not possible tends to change. But however, what we're talking about is whether or not we can rely on this person based on their own word. To say I can take this gun training and use it in a high stress scenario. So remember, we're not talking about something that like applies to you rationally day to day. This applies to how much this disorder affects you in a high stress scenario that can be triggering. So for example, depression, the suicidal thoughts can be triggering, and that can cause you to use a gun. With PTSD, someone being in your house can be triggering, and you may be more likely to perceive a threat that's not there. And that could be your dog or your child or something awful, even if you feel like you're fully cognitive at the time.
Okay, I understand your argument, but yeah, it has to be on a very much on an individual level. It has to be with like a clinical psychiatrist. You can
Then you've gotten
accurately.
rid of the preventative element of it, and the point is to be prophylactic about getting rid of this issue, or getting rid of the risk of this issue.
So let's go to.
No, that's why you have a psychiatric evaluation. That is the preventative measure.
Oh boy.
But we already do that, and people slip through it all the time.
Let's go to 2B.
Yeah, I guess Nine Tails for me the problem is like one, I don't think the analogy that you're using between being high risk suicidal and going to your doctor, and then your doctor makes a determination about particular patterns that you're exhibiting, and then saying, oh, you're exhibiting these patterns, you need to be placed under the custody of the state temporarily, or whatever organization is. I don't care if it's private, public, whatever, but you need to be put under custody technically against your will, right? That system is still more nuanced than the one where we do a blanket ban of all these people who fall under a certain category, like they have a mental illness. You are, even in that instance of the thing that you're citing to act as an analogy to what we're trying to talk about here, it's still something more like what Samantha is talking about, where it's on a case-by-case basis. You have to, even though we know you're high risk, you have to exhibit symptoms that somebody who's a professional has to evaluate on a subjective basis, of course, and then deem you either worthy or not worthy, but deem it appropriate for the state to temporarily take control of your autonomy. Now, this would just 1 second, and then I'll be done right now. And then the thing that would be most analogous, in my opinion, to that would be, and I don't think this gets rid of the preventative thing. If you have a screen, yes, some people will slip through, and it's a tragedy if they commit the gun thing. But that system still allows, in my opinion, for more nuance and preserves the autonomy of more people than a system like what you're talking about. There is no nuance there unless you add some kind of addendum to it, which again would still make it more like the system where people evaluate you on a case-by-case basis.
I believe that being nuanced is a privilege that we don't have with guns because people learn to slip through these cracks. It's not just
I believe
about it.
that not being nuanced when it comes to matters of autonomy is
For love of God, let me
whatever.
finish.
Yeah,
If we're truly talking about, like, I value autonomy, believe me, but if we're talking
Well,
about
no,
being
you don't.
preventative, then we can't wait for people to show signs that they're going to do something. Because guess what? Most active shooters don't. Most people who
Shit,
wind
so we
up
should
doing
just
terrible
ban
things. Most people who do terrible things act on an impulse, not like a series of things that are going on over time. And we can't, it's even harder. Like, it's easy to say, okay, if this person exhibits this mental illness, then we know they have a higher risk, so we can take care of that. But saying like they have to have all of these vague and mysterious attributes that may or may not apply, I think is much less reliable.
So this is just
And
wrong.
one second, Vivian.
Who is saying that?
Vivian, hold on. Let me respond really quick.
Oh
the
my
only
God.
thing, I'm sorry. The only thing I would say to that, Nine Tails, is that to me, I think the bigger infringement on people's rights is taking away blanketly people's thing. I think that is actually a privilege more than allotting people what seems to be a natural level of freedom. You have the freedom to move throughout the world. Other forces outside of you exert their ability to force you fewer freedoms. To some extent, they can allot you more freedoms, but again, that's still acting against the force. And I would argue that that's the natural state of the world, is that you do have the right, just by being here, to get access to a weapon. And if you want to take that right away from them, to me, that's more of a privilege. That's more of an exercise of privilege. And I think most people would argue that that's the privilege that wealth allots you. And I think that's why we think that wealth
considering
is a
these to
bad
be
thing.
like a natural right is a privilege, I don't actually think it is a natural right. And therefore, if we find that it's worse for public safety to have more guns around, I think that right should be philosophically
you
challenged.
don't care about autonomy.
Yeah, but that's a
And you
privilege.
also
I think
don't-
that's
and you
privilege.
also don't know, and you also
that's
don't
not fair
know
to
how
me.
like most of these shooter incidents occur.
I
There
just need to come in
generally
and
is a
correct
long-
a statement.
there generally is a long
Viv,
pattern
am
of
I
behavior
saying
and
this
mental
because I'm okay with autonomy, or am I saying this because I really want to see preventative measures?
Okay, but preventative measures, we should just fucking put everybody into a camp where they're strictly monitored by the government,
Yeah,
so that
now
they can't
we've
ever
gone
do
off the
anything
deep
to hurt
end. We've
themselves
gone off
or
the
anyone
deep
else.
end now because I didn't say that. Why are you strawmanning me?
I'm not
Second,
straw
one
manning
second.
you.
Can I just
I'm
clarify
saying
a
that-
statement that was
Please,
made?
go back and figure out what I said.
Hold on, Ninetales. Hold on.
I'm
I just
saying
want to
if you're
clarify a
willing to-
statement.
If you're willing to restrict autonomy as a preventative measure, right, without good evidence that the person is not able to exercise their autonomy responsibly, then your argument can be used for so many fucking things.
Okay, but I'm not
At
talking
what
about on
point do
on a level of
preventative me-
individual rights. I'm
At
talking
what
about
point?
the
No,
level,
exactly.
the
You're
level of
talking
public
about
safety.
entire groups of
Yeah, I'm talking about
people,
public space
right?
safety where individual
Yeah,
rights
you're
tend
talk-
to mean less.
You're
It's
talking
same thing
about
with
suppressing
coronavirus.
the rights of entire groups of people
It's the same thing
based
of
on your idea
coronavirus.
of a preventative measure.
It's the same
What-
thing as coronavirus. Someone could may be able to tell me that they won't breathe on somebody in the store and they'll say 6 feet apart, but we need to make sure they wear a mask because we can't rely on people to act on that consistently.
Okay, but Ninetales, where does this stop though? Because now you're making now we're going into areas of speculation as to what level you can trust people or not. You can extend that argument ad
Speculation.
infinitum, right?
I'm talking about mental illnesses that are known to affect people's cognitive reasoning. That are
No, with
known
the
to do
COVID
that.
thing.
I'm not talking
No,
about
with
trans people where that was never a shown mechanism. Okay, so
I don't know. Trans people do some pretty weird shit. They try and
Okay.
chop off
Yeah,
their
that's my
genitals, don't
argument,
they?
Viv.
So
That's my argument.
what kind of healthy, sane person would want to do something like that? Clearly, they can't exercise their autonomy
Yeah,
responsibly.
because that's how the mental health industry establishes diagnoses. That's a really
It ain't
very
the fucking mental health
We
industry you're
should just
appealing
defer
to.
to
You're
experts
appealing
because
to.
none of us know what we're talking about.
You're appealing to the fucking
I mean,
government
I
here to
actually,
take away
I
whole
do try to
groups of
self-study
people's guns
neurobiology, Jack, so
based
speak
on
for
their-
yourself. Hey, Jack, speak for yourself, because I actually try to study neurobiology and know what the fuck I'm talking about. Just because you
Okay,
can't
do
tell
you
the
know
difference
how
doesn't mean I don't get to
neurobiology
talk
and
about it.
sociology interact? Because we should probably be deferring to somebody.
I do
who
try to
knows
learn about that, and as I learn about it,
trying to learn about things, it doesn't make you an expert on them, and we should
I'm not
probably
saying I'm an
defer
expert,
to
but here's
experts
what's
on
here's
those
what's awesome.
subjects.
I'm not
No, but
saying
you had
I'm
a
an
revulsion
expert.
to her
I'm not
saying
saying I'm
we
an
should-
expert. I'm saying that there are feasible ways to do this, and it has nothing to do with not caring about autonomy. I care about autonomy plenty, and how much I care about autonomy does not
You
change
just
my
don't care
argument.
about it
How much I
enough to
care about
preserve it.
autonomy, how much I care about
I
autonomy does
wasn't
not
talking
change
about
my
the
argument
autonomy. I
for
was
how we
talking about
Yeah,
the mental
no,
health.
Vivian,
crisis.
or sorry, Ninetales, I think you had a revulsion to literally Jack saying that we should defer to experts. You had a revulsion to that, and the disagreement that you had was not based off of autonomy or anything. You literally had a revulsion to the idea that you are not an expert, so we should defer to experts. And then you said, I self-study
Well, it's
neurobiology.
just
None of
mindless
that was
discourse.
about
Of course,
autonomy
of course, a conversation with experts is better, and I agree with that. But it's literally
So why
discounts
can't we
all the
cite that
hard work.
data
It literally
instead?
discounts the hours upon hours, maybe days at this point, of sitting through lecture series trying to understand things.
It's like the
to
lecture series.
Yeah, but you also don't know what I've done, Jack. You're just dismissing everything
Yeah,
I've
so
learned.
present
you
us
have
with the
actual,
evidence.
when you have no actual rebuttal to my intellectual points. So
Well,
just admit it.
I'm
Just admit it
asking
that you
for
can't keep-
evidence to
just admit that you
substantiate
can't
your assertion that we should take guns away
Oh,
from mentally ill people.
Feel free to tune in when you get it.
Okay. Emotional ejaculate
I
aside, I just need to clarify a statement that was said
Intellectual
earlier.
ejaculate,
I just need to
Jack.
clarify a statement that was said earlier by Ninetales when she stated that we already do psych checks. Okay, we do not. The only thing that bars you mentally, mental health wise, from purchasing a firearm, the only things that could be fucking disqualifying you when it comes to mental illnesses is if, and these are the only two things.
I wasn't talking about psych checks with guns. I
I'm
was talking about
talking- you-
holding people who are suicidal and high risk.
Oh my God.
So that's not again for like the 8th time, Sam.
If you have been educated as a mental defective or committed to a mental institution, which includes the 72 hour.
Come on. Let her finish.
You don't even know this. How can you possibly give me advice on that?
Shut the fuck! I was listening. You were in the middle of an
finish.
argument with me, and I heard your fucking point. And you said we already do that when I said we need to
still getting
like.
it
So great.
Oh my god!
You heard
Shut the
yourself.
fuck up!
You heard yourself in the mirror. You're projecting.
Nine tails.
Autonomy.
Nine tails. Knock it off. Samantha, finish your
Autonomy,
point.
Nine Tails. You know what's part of autonomy, Nine Tails? Shutting the fuck up. Learn how to do it sometimes. Jesus Christ.
I'm really sorry you're bad at this.
All right.
Dude, you've been getting shit on all night by everybody on all sides of the fucking
people who can
political
only
spectrum.
man my arguments. It's wonderful.
Okay.
It really proves that like you guys can't keep up with me, and
You
the
have
best you
no
can
arguments.
do. The best
You're
you
just
can do is
spewing
argue.
shit.
Is argue.
Oh,
The
boy.
I'm
best you
glad
guys
you
can
watched
do
the
is
YouTube
Okay.
video. I'm glad you watched the YouTube video. Nobody cares.
Okay, great. Move on. Finish it up. Samantha?
I finished. Like
Okay,
those are the
okay.
only two things. Like we don't do a psych check, and I think
Fucking
that's fucked up
no.
that we don't. Oh my god! Shut the
my
fuck up! We're
God.
still going. Keep seething. Keep coping. Nobody cares. Go watch more YouTube videos on fucking psychiatric shit.
I really muted Nine Tails. You didn't notice. Okay, Nine Tails, I'm going to unmute you, but going to go to fines, all right? So fines, please.
Doing this thing where we like compare ableist gun bans to mask mandates is really weird to me. Gun bans meaningfully reduce an individual's ability to defend themselves, and it therefore reduces their autonomy as individuals. And we can meaningfully demonstrate that. Whereas mandating a face mask does not reduce anybody's autonomy. It's a simple, basic thing that does not really impact anybody's life. So comparing the two is just really, it's meaningless. You almost brought it up in bad faith, in my opinion, because like but I don't know why you would bring that up as a comparison. Whenever you like advocating for a gun ban is not the same like on an impact level as mandating masks. The impacts are wildly different.
Okay. Well, you can respond to that, Nine Tails, if you like, or if not, we'll do something else.
Yeah. Still, all my points have been straw man because all I was saying is that we already take risk into account when we decide whether or not we should honor people's autonomy. So again, someone can say, yes, I can stay 6 feet apart away from people. Yes, I won't breathe on them. But we're taking that for granted if we just run with it. And that's the thing, is that's also the problem with psychiatric evaluations. What are we going to run, a personality test? This is why we create diagnoses, so we can delineate people and their problems from other categories of people and problems instead of having a survey in a magazine. So the key thing
but those
is
categories are very broad, Nine Tails. That's what we were talking about with PTSD, right?
Sure.
The
But
category of PTSD,
PTSD
is really
isn't broad.
broad.
Vivian,
No, it
PTSD
is.
isn't broad. It directly
In terms of-
describes
in terms of
two
people's
phenomena.
ability to-
Vivian, please let me explain. It describes two distinct phenomena that happen in the brains of PTSD people. You might not like this fact, but it's very, very much agreed on by it is agreed on by science. I'm sorry that you're so anti-intellectual, Sam, because what they say is that your brain allocates resources for fight or flight and takes it away from your higher cognitive processing skills. And B, you're more likely to perceive something innocuous as a threat. Those two things are very good evidence that people are less likely to be able to use gun safety training. And that's the key thing here is I agree that you should be able to use your gun safety training in order for it to work. And since these people are at a higher risk of that not working, I don't think simply training them gets rid of the problem. This is why I think, and this is a greater thing too. Like if you're actually like afraid of other people owning guns, why do you want there to be more risk that they're going to mishandle these guns? It's mindless, all because of your sense of entitlement.
Okay,
if
so like I
someone
said, wait, she fucking interrupted me to finish that point. It's like, so that it is actually a broad category because what you're saying, right? Both of those determinants are extremely broad. The reactions that people have to
They
perceiving
exist in
something.
all PTSD
Holy
people.
fuck, Ninetales! Stop fucking talking
But
over
can I get you
people
to
every
agree
time
that
they
they exist
reply.
in all people with PTSD? Because otherwise, you're just being anti-intellectual.
Yes, that's fine. Those two descriptors, right? Those two whatever fucking attributes that you described, right? Like have a broad array of effects on the ability for somebody to like think rationally about their situation, right? When you say perceive something innocuous as a threat, the result of that can be either complete fucking derealization and like an almost hallucinatory state in which people really don't know where they are, who they are, what they're fucking doing, right? Or it can
also
simply
bad.
be, or it can, yes, that's very bad, right? That would be the kind of person that I would say we should probably restrict gun access to, right? Or it can simply be, right, that like, innocuous situations produce a sense of anxiety and panic in the subject, right? In which case I would say, no, we don't have to restrict guns because they're still able to rationally assess the fucking surroundings, right? Just because you feel anxious or you feel panicked about a situation, that doesn't mean that you don't recognize realistically what is going on.
It's not what the mechanisms of PTSD describe, though, Viv. Like,
No,
you're missing
it
the
is,
point.
though.
No. Let me
It is,
explain.
though.
I want to explain how you're missing the point here, because the point is that when the brain reserves resources within, we're talking about less conscientious parts of the brain, to the fight or flight reflex, you can no longer rely on them to act on their cognitive clarity.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you don't understand how we need to be able to use our higher cognitive processes to not shoot people who aren't actually a threat to us. But literally having PTSD makes that more difficult. And if you don't like that fact, then I'm sorry, you're just being anti-scientific again.
So let's go
Well,
to.
I think you're being anti-scientific because you read the shit out of a fucking textbook and haven't spoken to enough people.
No, I actually already know this because I have
so you don't know.
complex PTSD. I already knew this because I have complex PTSD. I was making sure to quote a verifiable source, so I wasn't just talking from my own memory.
Okay, great.
The same way in you as it does in other people.
Please. Thanks. Unicat, Jack, and 2B if he wants.
Okay, so what if someone who does not have PTSD or any of these disorders, like say they have a gun, like they don't like they have the higher cognitive processing, whatever the fuck, and then one day they decide to like try some drugs or something, and they get paranoid as fuck, and then they commit they do something, like
you can't prevent for that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you can ban drugs.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, let's just ban drugs. Let's just ban everything bad so people can't, like,
Thank you
it doesn't
for
work that way.
strawmanning me.
I mean, like, just because
You're just
I
so
do
desperate
agree.
to take my arguments out of my own mouth and then twist
not
them against me.
strawmanning, it's We're not
Yes, it is, because
inference.
I would never say just ban
Not
drugs so that way
strawmanning.
people won't shoot
Well,
each
that's-
other.
Well,
First of all, the reasons
that's
that
the
banning
logical
drugs doesn't
it's
work.
the logical
First of all,
extension of your argument.
You're saying that all
First
people
of all,
with PTSD are the same.
what's anti-scientific about this is that banning drugs isn't possible because of the logistics and the way black markets work. Banning guns reducing gun numbers is especially possible when you stop the manufacture of guns by actual companies that are legally operating in the United States. And you can say that we would have like
You
can
got
you really
about
tell
10
me?
years
Can you really
before
tell me?
the
Sorry,
point
let me
is
finish.
completely
Can you
from-
really
no,
tell me?
Ninetales,
I have a question for you. I have a question. Stop avoiding my question. Can you really tell me?
I'm not
Can you
avoiding
really
your
tell me
question.
that
You
if the
said
U.S. didn't
something
manufacture drugs, there wouldn't be more of it? Look at the opioid
Gish
crisis.
galloping bullshit.
No, it's not. Answer my question. Can you really say?
No.
I have a question. You're trying to avoid it because you're afraid of my question.
How can I answer
ask
if you
my
don't
question.
shut the fuck up?
Holy shit! I can
How
help
can
you
I
out.
answer
I
if
can
you
help
don't
you
shut the
out.
You cut me off so
Oh,
that way
shut up!
I would
Shut
ask my
up! Shut up!
question.
Shut up! 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 Oh, great. Thanks. Don't talk over me. Don't like it at all. Thank you very much. All right. Vivian, if you had a point you wanted to finish it quickly. And then Unicat was also talking before, so I go back to her.
Yeah, your point about gun manufacturers, you got about 5, maybe 10 years before it's completely fucking bullshit. You can already like use a 3D printer and make your own fucking gun
It's
at
like
home.
magic. You
really
don't need any
fucking
skill.
easily.
You just get the 3D printer to print.
Shut up.
3D
What?
printer
Oh
go
my
print.
Jesus, shut the fuck up. It's not like magic, but it is pretty easy to learn. And like I said, in the space of about 5 to 10 years, anybody who wants to and is interested in owning a gun will be able to 3D print their own fucking gun at home with no fucking issues whatsoever. Okay? You can already do it if you actually want to go and fucking learn. You could go and do it right now, all right? But like in
Anyone
terms
who
of like
thinks you can just watch a YouTube video and start 3D printing is like so wrong.
You don't
So
need
naive.
to-
You
no, you
watched
could
a
join-
YouTube
no,
video
you
and
could
thought
join
you could
a-
speak on this whole issue.
Well, I did more than watch a YouTube video, so that's
you
shocking.
can
That's
join
another
any
straw man
number.
and
You can
definitely an
join
attack
any
on my
number.
character.
Okay.
You
don't
can
know
join
me.
any number.
Finish
You
your
should
point.
know me
Any
before you
number.
speak about me.
Stop it right now. Stop it. Vivian, finish your point. Like in 10
He
seconds.
actually cut me off first.
Great. That's fine.
Ninetales, what the fuck is wrong with you tonight?
So,
I asked you a question. You started cutting me off.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna help you out. I'm going to assist you. Don't worry. It's gonna be great. So, finish your point, Vivian. I'm gonna assist Ninetales. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Obviously, I would not recommend you just go and watch one fucking YouTube video and make a gun. Okay, you can fuck it up and you can like end up blowing off your hand. But actually, there's fucking patterns out there that are out there on the fucking internet that will allow you to 3D print your own fucking gun. Instructions that will allow you to 3D print your own gun. You can join any fucking community that does this on a regular fucking basis and learn it in the space of like a couple of weeks and make a fully functioning assault rifle right within the space of a couple of weeks. Okay, I think anybody apart from somebody with some severe learning disabilities could do this pretty safely, actually. So you're just fucking wrong, all right? And if that's not the case now, my prediction was that it would be within the space of like 5 to 10 years, very, very easy. And gun manufacturers won't be required for people to be able to own and make their own fucking guns.
Okay.
I mean, shit, Ninetales, you watch some videos on scientist stuff, and now you think you're a fucking expert.
Great.
Why can't people be an expert on guns?
Okay. All right. So, hold on. All right. So, Ninetales, I'm gonna unmute you, but the next person who's talking is Unicat. And then we got to go to Jack, and then we're going to go to Tubi, and we're going to do this quickly. Thank you, Unicat. Hurry up.
Someone literally just said something to my face. though.
Shut up. Shut up.
Okay.
Shut
all
up.
right.
Okay.
So go ahead, Unicat.
Okay, so I have CPT. Out of the many things that I have, one of them is CPTSD, and I do have like reactions to things like thinking there is a threat. Like that is why I don't trust myself specifically with a gun. However, in saying like it's anti-science that like there are not specific patterns and like, everybody who has like certain yeah, that is anti-science, but it is also anti-science to say that there are not varying degrees between each people. I know people that perceive threats where there are none, but know that it's like they know how to control it. They know how to not act like impulsively because I don't know, therapy is a thing. You can do that and get some help on acting on your impulses and stuff like that. I'm going through that right now. I'm getting help to like because like mine is like I don't know, but so to just say that we should like bar all people with PTSD because they have a certain pattern, like they have a certain like they all perceive threats where there are none, which is true. Everybody with PTSD does, but to say that disqualifies all people with PTSD from being able to own guns safely is ridiculous, and it's ableist, and I don't see how you're not seeing that.
Okay.
Like we're literally all telling you that, and you're not listening.
Okay, great. You're going to be able to respond to this after Jack says something else at you. All right, go ahead, Jack.
Just the only thing I was gonna say is that there are degrees to which people suffer from mental illness, whether it is mild PTSD or more severe. The just because you're diagnosed with like depression doesn't mean that it is overwhelming and controlling and destroying your entire life. Now it could be, it might just be manifest in minor ways. Mental health is difficult to understand, and so it's just there's a lot of variation here, and I think that's why a lot of people or spectrums of how bad mental illness can be. So I think that's why a lot of people are advocating for rather than are advocating for like individual like testing of some sort.
Okay, great. You know what? I'll let Tubi go first, and then Ninetales can respond to all of it. All right, go ahead, Tubi.
Yeah, I guess for me, I feel like I've been engaging with your stuff pretty charitably. I don't think I'm strawmanning your arguments. But yeah, I guess the thing for me is I just feel like if we're gonna limit or make more difficult the acquisition of guns by people who fall under a certain category, like those who suffer from PTSD, I don't understand why it's not like why having a more nuanced selection criteria is less preventative. I understand in the absolute sense, like it just prevents completely every possibility of something manifesting because nobody who falls in that category can get access to the gun. But like people who suffer from PTSD, as I understand, they have certain like triggers, certain things that make them respond, that displays their PTSD, right? Why can't in a clinical setting you test for that? Because you're right, it is a valid critique to say, oh, well, how do these people respond in situations of stress, right? I don't understand why that's not something you can also incorporate into the test while you're going through the evaluation of whether they should be able to own a gun. I also still think it's a fair critique to say that allotting people their natural right to have access to the gun is not more of a privilege, in my opinion, than instituting a government mandate that takes that right away from them. To me, that is still more of a privilege. When we talk about privilege, I think it's talking more about something like that. I think actually when we talk about the woes that having lots of money and all that stuff, a lot of people, that excess of power, that's the kind of privilege we're talking about when we talk about privilege. I don't think it's privilege to, as a base, assume that people should get access to these material goods that we're producing, should they be able to afford it. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay.